And I'm going to call to order our regular meeting of the Board of Regents of Del Mar College District at 1:16 p.m. I'm going to dispense with our roll call and our other opening activities as we have just gone in from one meeting to another. We do have all regents present. Del Mar College is streaming the live audio and video from our Board of Regents meeting on the college's website in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting considered as closed session by statute. Before we get into our regular agenda, we do have an opportunity for public comment for items not on the agenda. There is no one here for general public comment signed up, and I don't see anybody raising their hands, so we will move on to our first item on our regular agenda, which is our Student Success Report, and invite to the podium Ms. Patricia Benavides Dominguez. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I was moving the mouse and
That's okay. Great. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Today I wanted to talk to you about the student success point of an event that we do and that we haven't done in a couple of years, and it's called Discover Del Mar. Discover Del Mar is an annual outreach event that we do. We host every spring. The last time we hosted it was spring 2019. We are very excited that we have it on schedule back this semester. The purpose of this event is to bring juniors and seniors from around the DMC service area to explore the various careers and majors that we have to offer. The day includes students experiencing hand-on demonstrations, facility tours, informational presentations, and speaking with our faculty and department chairs. This year we anticipate that we're going to have, we are hoping to get 1,000 students from 25 different high schools. As of yesterday's RSVP, we're at 974, so we're looking forward to that. The DMC Discover program, Discover event, we host workshops to explain to students the transition between their high school endorsement that they pursued and the major that they want to pursue at Del Mar. Some students may stay with the same or similar program of study that they've pursued in high school, and some may choose to go in another direction. For example, a high school student may have pursued the high school endorsement of public service and studying criminal justice, and then they'll come to Del Mar and they may choose to continue in that pathway and can choose to do our industry and public service pathway. And we explain all these different options to students during this event. This graphic right here is at the end of the event, we always do an evaluation, and here are some of the comments that students have said about participating in this event. Everyone is very happy and pleased that they are participating in the event. Here's some photos of the event, and as you can see, Valdar is also invited to this Discover Del Mar event. And on this one, there is a short 50-second video that I'd like for you to see. This year's event will be on Friday, March 25th, and we are elated to have this event. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would it be inappropriate for any of the regents to attend if they're so interested?
No.
No, we'd love for y'all to sign up for some
Yes.
classes too.
Take Dr. Adami's lead and sign up for a couple of classes. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now we're going to move on to the college president's report, return to campus planning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Regents, everyone in the audience and out there in cyber world who are listening. I want to thank you all. I'd like to begin with some good news, absolutely better news than we've been presenting, and that's due to the improving conditions with regard to the pandemic. Our return to campus planning team decided last month to allow the resumption of in-person, to recommend and support the in-person events on all DMC, all Del Mar College campus and locations. This is a welcome development as we move towards normal. And that being in the pre-COVID operations kind of scenario where things were just what they used to be just 2 short years ago, as Dean Gregg just made note earlier. As always, we remain optimistic but cautious in regard to the COVID-19 pandemic. We realize that things can change, and they certainly did on us last semester with the Omicron variant and the like. Knock on wood, everybody, all together now, that things continue to improve. We continue to work with our medical professionals and our leaders in our community and seek their advice as to how to persist, because although things are happening, there's different levels of the variants and so forth globally, nationally, statewide, and locally. We try to do everything we can with all things in mind, but most importantly, or more specifically, react as locally as we possibly can for the best outcomes for all involved here at the college. Switching gears, I would just like to say that the Association of Community College Trustees Summit was in Washington, D.C. Last month. I was proud to participate along with Chair Scott and Regent Averett, as well as Dr. Villarreal. It was a great time. I hadn't been there in a few years, because I missed the year before COVID. So it's been a few years since I've been to D.C. That being said, this yearly advocacy trip included a trip to Capitol Hill to visit Congressman Michael Cloud to discuss his initiatives on behalf of the college and the students. He was very attentive. We got to explain the things that are going on. He was there with staff. We met with him personally, and it was a great interaction as it relates to that. Many other topics from President Biden's administration were presented in big forums and the like for the big presentations to ACCT and all and it was very well attended from across the country. So again, there too, although things are different in DC than they are in Texas, that's an understatement. But there was a big showing from across the country, and we were glad to participate with and listen to presentations from people such as First Lady Jill Biden, who is a community college professor over at Northern Virginia Community College, as well as Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona. So just FYI, there's a great trip. As most of you are aware, many construction projects are continuing across the campuses. I'd like to remind everyone to please use caution as you walk near and or around the gates and all the types of things. There's all kinds of things happening, including here. We got some leveling going on and some foundation work and the like, but details and timelines can be found on our website, delmar.edu/progress. So if you have any questions about what's going on anywhere, it's popping everywhere. We have roofs going on. We have all kinds of things that are in front of us that we have to complete. So just an FYI there to proceed on campus with caution. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Dr. Escamilla?
Thank you.
Moving into our Regents report, a good segue, Regent Averett and I were able to attend the National Community College Legislative Summit along with Dr. Natalie Villarreal, in case you were confused by the Dr. Villarreals in the room. So, Libby, I wanted to offer you an opportunity to share your thoughts about NLS.
It was the first time I had the chance to attend, and as Dr. Escamilla said, it was very well attended. I was frankly a little surprised to see that many folks there, but that was good and a good indication of the interest and support and appetite, I think, for us to make sure that we're engaged and understand what's going on with this administration and where we can plug in to hopefully help and ultimately help our students. And with that, I'll defer to you because I know, Chairwoman, you were involved in many of the upper level discussions.
Thank you. We had a good meeting with Congressman Cloud. He is always gracious, and his staff is always gracious to meet with us and to find out what's going on. Our colleagues from Wharton Community College in Victoria, who normally attend NLS, and so we typically do a joint meeting with them with Congressman Cloud, and they were not able to attend, so it was just Del Mar College, and so we were able to share some of the progress and the thing, both impact of COVID as well as what's been happening in spite of COVID on our campuses, and have invited him again to come take a tour of our facilities, and I know he's particularly interested in some of the things that are happening at our Workforce Development Center, and so given him some opportunities and again some invitation to come visit us. I wanted to share with you one little tidbit. So in addition to the conversations and the sessions around our legislative agenda, we also heard from the National Student Clearinghouse, one of their representatives, and there was a particular number that I have begun to listen for in other state and now some potentially some regional conversations, and one is around nationally. There are 36 million Americans who have some college but no degree or credential. And so beginning to look at what that means in the state of Texas and what that could mean to us regionally as well, what is our potential to reach and to re-engage former students of either community college or four-year institutions and try to bring them back. You know, some of those folks have moved on and are happy in their careers, and at this point in time don't maybe have a career or personal goal to complete a college education or a credential. But I can't help but think amongst those 36 million Americans, there are those who are underemployed and potentially not fulfilling their career and educational goals. And so what would be our opportunities there? So I've begun to listen for that data point in other presentations. And if you start to hear a theme from questions from my seat at the table, it might be around that, just to give staff a heads up. It might be around those some college, no credential folks that are out there. So I thought that was interesting. We're going to move on and talk about the Board of Trustees Institute. Regent Garza and I were able to attend. Dr. Natalie Villarreal attended with us, and Dr. Escamilla was there for a presentation and for a part of the meeting as well. And I want to invite Dr. Villarreal up if she will help me with this. There was a particular data point that came, that they gave us to. So all of us have attended the Board of Trustees Institute that the Texas Success Center puts on every year at one time or another. And this was a relatively new dashboard that I had never seen before. And so I'm going to encourage you all to take a look at it. And it's U.S. Census data called the Post-Secondary Employment Outcomes Explorer. So that link is live on your agenda that was sent out. But this you can divide it by institutions. You can look at any institution or all of the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. You can look at earnings. You can look at the level of degree on the left. I'm looking at on the left-hand side. You can look at specific cohorts, and you can look at comparison earnings over time. The highlighted boxes at the bottom are within specific program areas. So, for example, health professions is our number one. One of our top enrollment areas, as well as completion. And on average, the folks who finish an associate's degree from Del Mar College in the health professions and related programs earn $62,754. If you look at engineering and engineering-related technology and technicians, that's our process technology. I'm looking for Dr. Villarreal to confirm, because they were throwing a lot of data at us. But anyway, I thought this is a very interesting dashboard when we want to look at the products of our work over time and how that, how they relate to specific job outcomes. We're not going to go through all of it with you, but I want to also have her look at the flows, and that you will then see over time our health professions and related graduates. Most of them move into healthcare, but then where else do they go? Of our liberal arts and sciences graduates, where do they go? And so if you highlight or click or unclick those different boxes at the bottom, you can begin to track flows, actual workflows over time. And this is all based on U.S. Census data. So for those who like to play with dashboards and play with information, we thought this was particularly enlightening. Rudy and I were having a lot of fun clicking buttons and just looking at where our graduates go. So I think it is really really interesting information and a good way for us to continue to look at multiple frames by which we judge our success and the success of our graduates. So we wanted to point that out. Rudy, do you have some other thoughts related to the Board of Trustees Institute?
Well, yeah, the data is real important, and of course, I think the biggest thing that I took away from it, following up on Dr. Luis Ponjuan's presentation related to, I think the acronym now they use is JEDI, which is Justice, Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion, and I think the idea that a lot of colleges, particularly the leading institutions that are seeing some progress in both their graduation rates and the reduction of time to completion rates, it appears to me that the investments that they're making on the advising side, which is the area that our chairperson brought up a few meetings ago about looking to see what we can do in the advising side to be able to help both our new students coming in and those students that maybe either have left the institution and not completed, or those that are struggling to complete it, slow down their process. It looks like we probably need to come up with a strategy of what we need to do on the advising side in order to be able to improve those goals or those measurement pieces. And so again, that's one of the things that I took away from what we discussed. So, thank you.
Several of us heard Dr. Ponjuan at the CAT Annual Conference and Combined Board of Trustees Institute in September, and he spoke again at this one. He is actually doing some work, a new research project of which Del Mar College will be one of the subjects of that research. He's meeting with Dr. Escamilla in the next several weeks, and we'll be making a couple of trips down here. I did ask him if he would be willing to do a board workshop with us on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I hadn't had a chance to tell Dr. Escamilla of that conversation yet, but there might be an opportunity because his travel is going to bring him here, for us to look at an opportunity to maybe do an add-on and do some board training with us related to our annual plan that we just adopted at our last meeting. So that might be a great opportunity to have all of us benefit from his presentation and from his skills. So.
We know Dr. Ponjuan very well, and that's spot on with where we can go. He's been a resource right up. College Station is really where he operates out of, but does a lot with the University of Texas, so he's just right up the road either way. So.
And I didn't get an understanding of what his next research is, but it is involving Del Mar College, A&M Kingsville, A&M Corpus Christi, I think Laredo International University. So he's doing some work in the South Texas space, of which we're going to be a part of. So.
Project Males, males of color and their persistence, practices, rates, and how this particular group that's so prevalent here in the South Texas region is really faring in higher education and or not faring in this case, unfortunately. So he and Dr. Victor Sines, who is the department chair of the College of Ed up at the University of Texas, very, very good friends of ours, are working on that research. So we're looking to participate there. I guess we've been partners with them for I guess about 4 or 5 years now. So.
Great.
Yep.
Any follow-up questions on either NLS or the BOTI? Thank you. It was a great opportunity to appreciate your support in letting us attend those conferences. Before we come up, John, I'm going to make a change in our agenda. I appreciate your promptness, but in light of the number of staff reports that we have and that we do have some special guests in the audience, I am going to move up our 2 action items related to our Professor Emeritus action items today, and I'm going to ask Dr. Jonda Halcomb to come up and cover our regular agenda item number 4, discussion action related, she'll present both Professor Emeritus presentations.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Regents, Dr. Escamilla, I'm pleased today to present 2 faculty names to you for consideration of emeritus status, and we'll have you vote on those separately, of course. Emeritus status is a distinction that is reserved for those faculty who have shown distinguished service, significant contributions to higher education, meritorious teaching, and special honors. Emeritus status is awarded only to a few on retirement. This is a very important and distinguished honor. Your packet contains the policy covering the eligibility for consideration of emeritus status and the process for nominations. Our faculty emeritus considerations today were recommended by the Dean, the Faculty Council, and the Chief Academic Officer, following the outlined policy and procedures. The packet also contains the specific criteria and distinction in professional practice, educational growth, and institutional and community service of each individual. I'm going to read a resolution in recognition of Dr. Christine Tarashevich, her achievements, and then I'll ask the Board of Regents to accept the resolution and confer emeritus status. Dr. Tarashevich, would you come forward? The resolution reads, whereas Dr. Christine Tarashevich, Professor of Economics, served as an exemplary tenured educator among her peers and students at the college for 13 years, from August 2008 to August 2021. Whereas Dr. Tarashevich is known for her mentorship of students, innovative teaching methods, and contributions to college and community initiatives. She demonstrated commendable dedication to students as a notable advocate of the Alpha Beta Gamma Student Business Honor Society. Dr. Tarashevich is further recognized for her distinguished support of the Junior Achievement Program, the annual Marine Corps Toys for Tots Drive, and St. Andrew's Lenten fundraisers. Whereas Dr. Tarashevich provided invaluable leadership as Business Administration Program Coordinator. She exhibited committed service to the college as a member of the Instructional Program Review Committees, Position Search Committees, and numerous college standing committees, including Recognition Day, Hall of Fame, Faculty Professional Development, Library, and Curriculum Committee. To continuously enhance her expertise, Dr. Tarashevich actively participated at professional events such as the annual National Economics Teaching Conferences and Texas Community College Teachers Association conventions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Del Mar College Board of Regents formally acknowledges and extends its profound appreciation for service to our college and community by recognizing Dr. Christine Tarashevich with the title of Professor Emeritus on this day, March 8th. I now ask you to accept this resolution and confer emeritus status on Christine Tarashevich.
Thank you very much, Dr. Halcomb. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Dr. Adami. Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Hutchison, by Dr. Villarreal. Thank you so much for your service to Del Mar College. I don't know you personally, but I have great faith in this process and have so enjoyed reading and learning about you through the application process and the resolution. Don't know if any of our fellow regents want to speak before we vote. but would certainly offer you the opportunity to do so. All those in favor of the resolution to bestow the title of Professor Emeritus on Dr. Christine Tarasevich and to adopt the resolution therein, please raise your hand. That motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, and again, thank you so much. Please address us and give us some of your wisdom on how you were so successful all these years.
Well, I want to first thank Lenora Keys for bringing me to Del Mar.
I'm going to have you step to that middle microphone.
This one. Oh,
There
I'm
we go.
sorry, I
Thank
didn't
you.
realize it. I want to thank Lenora Keys for bringing me to Del Mar and be associated with such a wonderful wonderful college, and to be able to work with our local partners in education around the country. And I think that it has always been my goal to make sure that people understand how economics is so important in their day-to-day life, and how I could relate it to what they were learning about and seeing about in the community. And it was very easy to do that with all the help, and I really appreciate the support services when students needed help, either through their personal lives or whether it was tutoring services. There was always somebody to help and always someone I could send them to, and I thank you very much for that support of those efforts.
Thank you.
And thank you for the designation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next faculty emeritus consideration today was once again recommended by the department chair, dean, the faculty council, and chief academic officer, following the outlined policy and procedures. The packet also contains the specific criteria and distinction in professional practice, educational growth, and institutional and community service for Drew Jones. I'm going to read a resolution in recognition of Drew Jones, which highlights her achievements. Then I will ask the Board of Regents to accept the resolution and confer emeritus status on Drew Jones. Drew, could you come forward, please? Whereas Ms. Drew Jones, Associate Professor of Business, served as an exemplary tenured educator among her peers and students for the college for 13 years, from August 2008 to August 2021. Whereas Ms. Jones was recognized for her admirable dedication to our students by receiving the 2017 Disability Advocate of the Year Award, the 2017 Sigma Alpha Pi Excellence in Teaching Award, and 11 nominations for Teacher of the Year Award. She was also successfully awarded a Pan American Roundtable grant to offer her international business class and interdisciplinary multifaceted examination of conducting business with North Latin and South American countries. Ms. Jones' devotion to education is further evidenced by her accomplishment in establishing the Luther Jones Scholarship Fund at the college and Texas A&M University Corpus Christi in memory of her father, Mayor Luther Jones. She has amazingly raised over $75,000 to fund these direct and endowed scholarships. Whereas Ms. Jones provided committed service to the college as a member of instructional program review committees, position search committees, and numerous college standing committees, her contributions were invaluable on committees such as Faculty Professional Development, Faculty Council, Recognition Day, Hall of Fame, Quality Enhancement Plan, and Guided Pathways. To continuously enhance her expertise, Ms. Jones regularly participated at professional events such as the League of Innovation, Online Learning Conference Accelerate, Infrastructure Canvas Conference, Marketing Management Association Educators Conference, and the Texas Community College Teachers Association Convention. Now therefore be it resolved that the Del Mar College Board of Regents formally acknowledges and extends its profound appreciation for service to our college and community by recognizing Ms. Drew Jones with the title of Associate Professor Emeritus on this day, March 8th, 2022. I now ask you to accept this resolution and confer emeritus status for Drew Jones.
Thank you so much, Dr. Halcomb. Is there a motion to that effect? Motion by Mr. Kelly, second by Ms. Averett. You notice how much we love to do these. We're just chomping at the bit. Drew, it has been my pleasure to know you, both as a successful real estate owner and realtor in Corpus Christi, and now as a professor or associate professor at Del Mar College. What a delight you have been. Are there other board members who would like to say comments before we vote? If not, all those in favor of conferring the status of Professor Emeritus on Ms. Drew Combs and adopt the resolution therein, please raise your hand. That motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Ms. Jones. Please again give us your wisdom as well.
Thank you. I did want to tell you all, in case you didn't know, I've taught at Del Mar since 1978. Don't calculate my age, please. But the first 30 years were as an adjunct. And it just goes to show you, if you hang in there long enough, Lenora Keys will give you a chance and hire you to teach full-time. I do want to thank her for saying, you can do this. And so I made the transition to full-time. It's been wonderful. And I want to share some of my inspirations. Ken Combs, who's sitting back there in the sweater, he's taught for Del Mar for 30 years. And Lenora. And for Mary McQueen, I plan to continue my work with Del Mar College at the Del Mar Foundation. So hopefully you will see me around trying to raise money. So give me your phone numbers. I am grateful. Thank you very much for the recognition.
Thank you very much. Well deserved. You are welcome to stay for the rest of our board meeting, but I certainly didn't want to make you sit through all of our many discussions today, unless you just are aching for a reason to sit. Now we will go back to our staff reports, and our first one is going to be presented by Mr. John Strabos. We're going to get an update on the Corpus Christi Police Training Academy at our Oso Creek campus.
I'm going to turn this over to Philip Ramirez with Turner Ramirez Architects in just a second, but to kind of put this in context, on November 3rd of 2020, the citizens of Corpus Christi passed their bond issue, and so this is what's funding this. And then right after that, literally a week later, on November 10th, the Board of Regents approved the interlocal agreement with the City of Corpus Christi. So, Philip, it's yours.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Regents, Dr. Escamilla. Pleasure to be here to give you all an update on the design of the new City of Corpus Christi Police Academy. First off, I'd like to just take a moment to applaud this body for having the ability and the foresight to work with our community partners, the City of Corpus Christi, in a true demonstration of our community leadership and organizations working together to find a common goal and a common good. And I think it was a fantastic decision for you all to not only add to the beautiful campus that is currently under construction, but also be able to provide our city and our community with a first-class facility that not only will add to the campus that is out there and the setting that we feel is coming here in the very, very near future, but it's a fantastic facility that will continue to train the men and women who choose to put their lives in the line of duty to protect our citizens in our wonderful community. So thank you all very much for having that foresight and the willingness to work with our City of Corpus Christi and our police department to make this project a reality. So with that, I'm going to take y'all through. The first is going to be a little animation to kind of show y'all roughly what the project looks like, and then I'll take you through a few more specifics, and certainly feel free to stop me at any point in time should y'all have questions if I move too fast. Let's see if I can get this to start here. Yeah. Sorry, there's a little bit of music here, but So that little short animation kind of gives you a little bit of context, but I'll take y'all through some specifics. If you'll see here, this image shows the approximate location of how the building will be sited in context to the actual South Campus Phase 1A. To the right, you can see the main building under construction. We've kind of photo montaged this in with a drone shot that we took during the construction of the facility. So really, the way that the new police academy is situated is right along the main entrance boulevard that is coming down there, that is anchored by the main building. At first, we were just in discussions with the city about the potential of having a one-story facility, but I think given the scale of everything else that's being built out there, the decision was made to give it some height by adding a second story as part of the building. So that way it had a little bit more presence and could kind of fit a little bit more into the campus. Even though it changed, I think, some of their initial concepts of wanting a one-story building, we felt like it was something that would be more complementary to what's already out there and more fitting with the campus as well. So again, just another demonstration of their willingness and understanding of the fact that this is being placed on a campus setting, and we really wanted to try to strive to make sure that it fit well, had its own distinct look, and stood on its own as a building and as a design, but also was really also complementary to what was already being constructed out there as part of the campus Phase 1. A couple of things I'll note here. This is kind of a street level view from Yorktown that you would see. The intent is for us to bring in materiality that is very much the same as we're seeing over at the Phase 1 Southside campus, and so I should call it Oso Creek campus. Forgive me, it's been in my mind for so long is that, but thank y'all for the naming and giving it that wonderful name, which I really like, by the way. So you'll notice there's a couple of tones of brick, and so the intent is to match the brick coloration that we're seeing there on the Oso Creek campus Phase 1 that you see. There's also a tie-in to the canopy structure that you see at the main building as well, and so that canopy is really a smaller rendition of that, but made out of the same materiality. So again, those ties, those symbols, there is some symbolism in the building, and in this canopy, as you see, this white kind of line that moves through and then transitions up. Part of the thought in the design process, I wish I had Luis here with me to more eloquently place that, but it really, there's some symbolism in that as well. And if you'll notice on the very corner, there's 3 pillars that come up and actually support the corner of that canopy. And the symbolism of that is actually a transition of the cadets as they move in, and they're kind of a baseline, as we would call normal, regular citizens, and as they move through the program, they elevate to be something that is, we feel, is above and beyond that, and somebody that's willing to serve our community in that level and put their life on the line and keeping us all safe here. So by the time they exit the program, they've obviously graduated and become something much grander and something that or a person that we're in debt to. But it's all held up by these 3 pillars, and those are the 3 pillars of the actual police academy. And I'm going to butcher them, but it's integrity, honor, and duty, I believe. And so those 3 pillars are the actual thing that continues to hold up those ideals. And as they continue to move into the regular force, hopefully those things are attributes that are carried through in that transition into the service of our police department. Again, the materiality, the architectural cues are all really designed in a manner that will, again, make it fit within the campus settings, the brick coloration, those types of things. With a couple of little cues, you can see we've tried to integrate a few colors that are more police-centric, like the yellows and the blues, but while in keeping in vein with the overall look of the campus. Again, we've designed this in a way that the landscaping will also be commensurate with what the level of finish that we have with the Oso Creek campus. Again, just a few shots of this at night. We wanted a very big transparent entrance that will obviously have that similar lantern effect that we're trying to achieve with the culinary building and the library as those anchors of the first phase. Obviously, a nice lobby. This is a regional facility. We really wanted to create something that was indicative of being a training environment that they can bring in not only just the cadets for the police academy itself, but also have the ability to train other law enforcement agencies as they come in on a regional basis and provide some areas where they can commiserate socialize in a manner that they can get to know one another, and providing some more public type spaces where they can, again, have some options rather than just gathering in a classroom type setting. So you can see it's much more of a kind of a lounge type effect in the lobby. We wanted it to be something that was really indicative of that, and a level of finish that would also be commensurate to what we would expect on the campus as well. So again, the classroom spaces, there's one large auditorium type classroom space that we have on the second floor. That is actually really most of the portions of the classroom spaces are elevated on the second floor, not only to elevate the overall aesthetics of the building, but also just the views as well from that second floor versus the first. Here's a picture of the gym, the physical fitness gym. Again, just a site plan that shows you in juxtaposition of how this building is placed with the land that y'all have so graciously leased back to the city of Corpus Christi. And the police department itself. There will be a dedicated parking lot. Point out a couple of things. There is a drop-off that is coming off of already one of the master planned drives. So we really tried to orient the building and place it in a way that didn't violate the master plan that had been previously done by Gensler for the overall campus, to make sure that it is still in vein of that, and that we're not able to try to hinder or harbor any future phases that would be coming down the line for the college at some date down the road. And so we really tried to respect that master plan as best as we could, while still trying to figure out and accomplish all of the programmatic needs for the police academy. Just again, a little larger view of the overall facility from a site plan perspective. There's some current discussions going on as we finalize the design, whether or not that track will actually be there or not. I think there's been a pivot here in the last couple of weeks as we finalize the design to more of a running trail rather than an actual rubberized surface track. Unfortunately, just the size of a real competition size running track it just takes up a lot of land, and land is at a premium, and so I think there's maybe a little bit of a pivot in direction, and so we're looking into that, investigating, and how we can make that happen kind of around the building, and maybe even tie it into the running kind of trail that we have moving along Yorktown. Eventually, hopefully, there'll be a loop type connection, but for right now, we'll have it somewhat internalized as we plan for it.
And the bridge is installed.
Yes, sir.
It
Yes.
has been installed. I will bring you all an update, Regents, in a few short weeks. I think it's still barricaded and/or
Sure.
it's preventing people from crossing it, but the foundation has been established, the actual bridge is installed, and the sidewalk going north to south on the, just to the west of this facility,
Yes.
where this facility is already in. So there's already reasons and other infrastructure in place that'll be conducive to that.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Doctor. And that's something obviously we'll be looking at as well, as to
Sure.
how to integrate all of that. This is just a floor plan of the first floor, just to give you all a sense of some of the programmatic elements that we're going to have in here without taking up too much time. Obviously, you see in the center is the lobby. The building is bifurcated into more of the physical fitness aspects, and then the right-hand side is more of the administrative and specialty education portions of it. The right-hand side's got defensive tactics, which is a mat room where they'll teach basic self-defense and things of that nature. We've got the weight and exercise room, and then your locker spaces, as well as a large break room for the cadets. Currently, if you'd see the current condition of their break room, they can hardly fit maybe 10 to 12 cadets, and they have classes the size of 75. So it becomes, they really are in need of desperately, their toilets they're using, unfortunately, portable toilets, and so this facility is just sorely needed. To the right-hand side, as soon as you come off the lobby, you have the administrative area for the instructors, and then in the very back, they have an arms vault, a driving simulator, and a range simulator. But just to be clear, there's no ammunition stored here. These are just, they will issue those weapons, and they will go out and use their firing range that is outside of kind of a ways away from the populated parts of the city. And the range simulator is simply a digital simulator that they have to be able to enact scenarios and things of that, de-escalation scenarios and things of that nature as well. So that's a state-of-the-art simulator that they have currently, and it's currently housed behind, in their physical fitness area, just kind of stuffed into a corner, and it really needs its own dedicated space.
Yep, yep, the firearms is a big part of the discussion, but Regents also know that these will be uniformed officers that will be carrying weapons as you would expect when they do their training and the portions and everything else. That's a little nuanced thing that's probably for more people, for other people out in the community, but that's a little detail, that there will be uniformed police officers fully armed and as appropriate.
And as far as this securing those arms when they are being stored there, this is being designed as a full Class 5 GSA arms vault, so it's a military spec on alarm, so it is something that's obviously very, very secure, and really nobody's going to be able to full poured-in-place concrete walls, floor, ceiling, everything, and I can't tell you much more about how that's designed, or giving away government secrets, but it will be a very secure facility in that regard, not only from protecting weapons, but also just access control as well. So it will be fully integrated into the city systems as well. The second floor is really just the right half. As I mentioned, we have a large auditorium style classroom on one side, and there's a balcony that overlooks into the lobby space, and then a large multi-purpose room that can be divided with a skyfold partition into two separate classrooms if they need smaller group gatherings. So they actually can have about approximately 160 students training at once. So they can have the cadets training, but they can also be doing regional type training all at once at the same time, given the fact that they have doubled effectively the classroom space that they currently have. So just some building efficiency features that we've put in. And just to give you all a sense of the time frame that we're expecting, we are currently finalizing the IT, audiovisual, and information, the electronic security and safety systems with the city's consultant. Our drawings are expected to be due by, I believe, the end of this month, first week in April, and then the city will start beginning the process to put those drawings out as a bid package to various contractors, and as soon as it's possible for us to receive bids, we will move forward and hopefully, start the construction process. So I'd imagine that within the next 3 to 4 months, you would start seeing some activity on the construction side there on campus, and obviously there will be some overlap, but because of the location, it should not affect any of the overall construction of the completion of Phase 1A there at the Oso Creek campus. So with that, I stand by. Is any other questions or?
I have a couple questions. Anybody?
Sure.
I have 2 questions. One, back to the map
Yes.
that shows the ingress and egress coming in off of Yorktown.
Yes.
So would students drive in and have to go all the way to the end of that and make a U-turn to come into the parking lot?
No,
Or you are gonna have a cut through
there's
right
a
there?
little, there's a cut through right
through,
here,
okay.
for, in the boulevard, so you can come in and make a left-hand turn into there.
What is their typical cadet calendar year look like? Are they in class, 52 weeks a year, and do you have a sense of their calendar?
I actually don't. I mean,
Okay.
I believe they run a couple of academies a year, but I don't think it's something where they're running 365 a year. I don't believe that. It's kind of there's a duration of it, but I do think that they fully intend on using this facility, whether it be for other training purposes, pretty regularly. I mean, it will be staffed with, the instructors, the administrative portion of it will be there, I would assume 5 days a week at a minimum. But also there will be other training events for continuing education training events for their own officers, but also from the regional aspect, Madam Chair. So I think that you will have activity in this building, I anticipate, pretty consistent with your campus activities for the most part.
And so have we done kind of an analysis of the traffic flows and what we might expect from student traffic flows, and are there any conflicts in any of that?
So, I'm sorry? Oh, so what we've, John, you can help us with this one. What we've understood is that, yes, it is a regional academy. I mean, primarily for the, well, first and foremost, it's for CCPD to have their academies. Their academies are relatively small, but whether it's 1, 2, or 3 at a time, we think that with that and training staff that we can accommodate everyone. It's when it really moves towards the regional approach and you start bringing in continuing education and other types of instruction throughout the region that we've talked about issues with traffic and the like. They're pretty much, as I understand it, it's a daytime. They peak when we're down. I mean, in the middle of the day, they're peaking. They're moving, and then our students are moving out. So we know what our parking lot. Our parking lots are primarily on the south side. And the east side of our location, and the last I remember the conversations going is that the flow on one side with this was going to be complementary. John, tell me about the last update that we talked about with traffic patterns.
So part of what happens when you think about the police academy and their normal operations, the cadet's job is to go to this class. So it's like Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 7 to 4 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a peak when they're coming there, but the class has a limited size just from the building alone. They're not going to have, it's like a class of 100 or something, a couple hundred.
75.
75. So you've got 75 students coming there at 7 o'clock in the morning, basically, and they're there till 4 o'clock. So they're getting there before us, and there are not that many more cars. It's 75 cars. And then they're leaving after we're already done. So there's not really conflict when they're at an academy for most of it. There will always be some exceptions. There's going to be like a graduation, maybe an indoctrination, initiation ceremony, and then once it becomes a regional facility. And once it becomes a regional facility, that's when we would expect the city to reach out to us and say, look, we're planning on this event on this day and time, and how do we manage the traffic flow? And says, well, don't you have police officers who can direct traffic? I think those are the kinds of problems that we want to have, is that there's too many people trying to get into one entrance at the same time.
Okay.
So what's important also is to recognize that in addition to our educational space in our 3 primary buildings of the Oso Creek campus is community space as well, just like this building, just like this room. And so there'll be a juggling of traffic at all times because we'll be offering that space as well and have mixed traffic. So it's going to be a coordinated effort, and with our police department coming on board with their police department, I think we can work through that.
Even in a regional situation where you do
Yeah.
have, just from a classroom occupancy, we're kind of limited at about 160. So the rest of it is the use of the other spaces for the gym, and they're intended for the cadets. And so you're not really going to have, my guess is, while the building in theory can hold more people, you're kind of sort of limited by the amount of classroom space that you could have going simultaneously, because the gym is going to be used by the same people using that. So while the building square footage is about 34, almost 35,000 square feet, you really are limited just by the nature of the classroom space, and the rest is really support for the same individuals. So I don't anticipate a high level of occupancy at any given time for this particular building, other than short of, as Mr. Strybos said, that, the graduation ceremonies, that type of stuff. So, but on a day-to-day basis, that sounds very consistent with what our understanding is from the city as well.
And my other question, are they tying into our central plant?
They are not, actually. That had to do primarily with the cost of some of the runs, because of, while we've done very well to make sure to provide future tie-ins, all the utilities are there, but the run to the actual central plant itself, and then they also have some redundancy that they're planning to build in, because should they ever need to run this facility to train, officers for, after a hurricane or something like that, they want to be able to run that facility 24/7. And so they actually are on an isolated mechanical yard that is providing their own services. So they are picking up the water and some electricity and things of that nature, but they'll have their own meter. And the water, I imagine, we have that's, so they are tying into some of the utilities, but it'll be sub-metered, and but they are not tying into the overall central plant. That was kind of a decision that we had a cost-benefit analysis, and operationally it just kind of sort of didn't make sense when we looked through all the numbers and everything, so.
I got a question.
Yes.
We're having an entrance off of Rodfield, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so.
Off the back, yes.
All right, so we'll have a couple funnels.
Yes.
And they could come around that, yeah, because that'll tie into that main part, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gets cut off here, but there'll be that access road coming in off of Rodfield as well, to the rear parking lots.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Yeah,
We're
thank y'all.
very excited about this opportunity and to strengthen our relationship with City of Corpus Christi and CCPD directly. So
Yes, I
very
agree.
excited about it.
Well, thank y'all very much. We appreciate the opportunity, and certainly if there's any other follow-up questions, we're happy to answer them. Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, our next staff report is an update on our higher education emergency relief funds. Ms. Lenore Keys and Mr. Garcia, do you have any opening comments?
Madam Chair, this is a presentation, just a continued presentation as we continue to plan for and otherwise expend the higher education emergency relief funds. This continues to be the challenge that we thought it was going to be, but I'm proud of the work that the team has put together for the presentation for your review today, as promised. Mr. Garcia and Ms. Keys, along with Vice President Patricia Dominguez, have really put a lot of effort into this, but it takes an extraordinary amount of planning to expend these types of dollars. But that being said, Ms. Keys.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Escamilla and Regents. Thank you and good afternoon. Mr. Raul Garcia has led the college's initiatives over the past year in response to the higher education emergency relief funding grants through the U.S. Department of Education. The following information provides an update as to the requirements of the regulators, the overview of the allotted funding targets, and the strategies to address the conditions created by COVID-19, as well as the resulting impact on our students and the college. You will see how the combined $30.9 million is distributed to support students and provide assistance to the college as an institution to meet the challenges brought about by COVID-19 and the pandemic. Specific strategies and the broad categories are going to be highlighted. And now, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Ms. Keys, for the very kind words. I'm not too sure if I consider myself a leader, but more of a facilitator more than anything else. And I'll show you shortly why, because the talent pool that came together to put this together was pretty amazing in my opinion. So let's get started. So today's presentation is an update to the April 2021 board meeting when the college first introduced the Herf grant spending plan valued at $30.8 million. So let's get started. So here's the team. The complexity and the wide outreach of the emergency Herf grant funding and the time constraints requirement for careful planning from 2 advisory groups. The groups consist of individuals possessing deep technical expertise with grants and their respective expertise in their respective areas. Their body of work yielded 7 general Herf spending categories that we will shortly go over. The Student Emergency Advisory Group, which is this listing right here of the team members, is credited for planning and executing the emergency aid grants to students for expenses relating to COVID-19. The grant award for this particular category is valued $11.5 million. Here's the next group. So the Institutional Use Advisory Group is credited for planning and executing grants valued $19.3 million. The spending plan includes a wide range of spending categories, including technical enhancements to drive remote learning paired with faculty professional development, student re-engagement, and activities to mitigate the spread and transmission of the contagion. So the U.S. Department of Education Herf Grant Awards have been a lifeline during the pandemic for the college and more importantly for our students. The college's grant awards include, and this is listing to the left, includes the Student Emergency, Institutional Use, and the Minority Serving Institution grants for a combined total value of $30.8 million. As previously mentioned, there are 2 advisory groups who are credited with planning and executing the spending plan. The second pie chart to the right provides a detailed listing of the general funding categories. I want to point out that over 50% of the $30.8 million went directly to students. Over 50% went directly to students. This includes student emergency funding for the $11.5 million and student success initiatives for $4.6 million. We will now take a deeper look at these funding categories. Ms. Keys will lead us into the discussion on the student emergency funding category valued at $11.5 million.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. The Direct Student Emergency Assistance Fund, there we go. The Direct Student Emergency Assistance funding totaled $11.5 million. These funds are critical to sustain students both personally and support their educational endeavors. The following slides provide details on the specific requirements as set out by Herf and the strategies to distribute these funds in direct support of students.
Hello. This slide defines the Department of Ed requirements for Herf distribution. Herf funds can be used for the student costs of attendance, emergency costs that arise due to COVID-19, such as tuition and food, housing, healthcare. The Herf deadline that we have to follow to award the money is May 2022. Other requirements that the monies cannot be used by institutions to use the student proportion of the Section 18004 funds for student scholarships. There is a no-cost extension and may request for a grant extension for 1 year. This slide defines how at Del Mar we are going to, how we utilize the Herf funds. Herf funds were awarded over a period of time through multiple semesters. Awarding funds is based on a tiered approach. Students with the most financial need based on the results of the FAFSA. We're looking at EFCs from 0 to 10,000, the students with the most need. Highest educational expenses based on the number of hours enrolled and the type of help requested, medical, technology, housing, food, and childcare. On this slide, the Direct Student Emergency Awards, DMC awarded 8.8 in Herf funds directly to students. The funds awarded pie charts show a total amount we distributed. The first funds awarded shows how much we awarded by term. The pie in the middle is the average award that students received, and you can see that also by term. And then on the last pie chart is on students we assisted, and you can see the average number of students that we assisted by term. These funds went directly to the students. For the student emergency assistance for spring 22, we have approximately 111,000 left to distribute, and we are currently working with students throughout this semester. Questions?
Thank you. Good afternoon. The college did launch 2 campaigns in support of the Herf Emergency Student Funds, and that's what you see here. Our first campaign was called Funds for You. You probably noticed. It was ran the summer of 2021, and it promoted mainly fall 2021 enrollment. And that campaign included digital, social marketing, as well as print ads, postcards, to more than 110,000 households. We had billboards in prime locations. We also had radio ads. The Funds for You engaged approximately 115,000 residents in our Corpus Christi metro area that we were able to track back to the landing page that we had specifically created for this campaign. And so since the launch of the campaign, which was back in late July, we've awarded approximately 9,000 students emergency Herf assistance. Additionally, we launched the Add a Class campaign, and that was during fall 2021 semester to assist with the spring 2022 enrollment. And this campaign focused on students who signed up for a 16-week course and had the opportunity then to sign up for an 8-week course for free. The campaign also included digital and social media marketing, and it resulted in more than 73,000 impressions, and we had 728 direct clicks to apply for this particular program. This particular campaign also included television. We had radio ads and streaming audio ads, and as of now, 1,166 students have benefited from this particular program.
Okay, so now we turn our attention to the institution and the minority service grant awards with a combined value of $19.3 million. In this section, members of the advisory committee will provide a spending update and with respect to the technology enhancements to drive remote learning paired with faculty and professional development, student re-engagement activities, and activities to mitigate the spread and transmission of the contagions. So let's start off with lost revenues. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. As a backdrop to our spending plan, I will go over a few compliance requirements of the grant. The institution and minority serving institution grant awards requires the use of funds to defray expenses associated with the COVID-19. This includes making additional emergency financial aid grants to students or facility enhancements associated to create a health and safety environment. The institution grant award has an end date of May 20, 2022, a couple of months. With that said, the college has recently submitted a no-cost extension request that will provide an additional 12 months to spend the grant. If there are no questions, we will transition to the next spending category on the next slide. Okay, lost revenues. The grant provides funding for revenue losses as a result of the COVID-19. This includes tuition and fees, food services, and childcare. As of today, the college has billed and collected $4 million of the $4.2 million that was set aside for this category. The college has until May to spend the remaining planned budget of $200,000 for lost revenues. If there are no questions, we will transition to the next category. Okay.
The Success Outreach Plan that we implemented were two major campaigns. On the right, the first, the student debt part was an initiative that we did at the start of the pandemic, starting with spring 2020 up until current fall 2021. And with that campaign, we assisted students with $495,984 of debt that we paid off their debt that they owed to the college. And we did direct outreach to those students to re-engage with us. Additionally, the other outreach plan that was created was the Add a Class campaign. This campaign encouraged students to enroll in a 16-week or first 8-week course and receive a free class that started on 124 or beyond, which was like your 15-week course, your second 8 weeks, or Maymester or other mini terms that we have. This campaign paid for the course and any other course fees. The cost of the campaign was $864,114. There were 1,166 students that took advantage of this program.
Sorry, Patricia, you probably said this. How many students were we able to help with the student debt write-off? You gave
This, I just know the total financial amount for those terms, and it was almost $500,000. It was $495,000.
Yeah, I saw that number. I should know if we knew the number of students.
Oh, the number of students, I don't have that with me right now, although I do have it. I just, don't have it right now.
That's
but I
right.
can get
Thank
back to you on that. It was substantial every term.
As mentioned this morning during the workshop, more and more faculty are teaching online as compared to pre-COVID times. I'm very pleased that we were able to provide our faculty and staff with professional development opportunities that we otherwise may not have been able to provide for this online learning environment. The e-learning director, Janet Camps, has been working with me and has been instrumental in identifying professional development opportunities, such as finding experts to serve as speakers and a person that can lead small and large group discussions about online learning. With these Herf funds, we are able to purchase technology for a training room, hire a part-time person to help with the logistics and planning, and provide assistance to the e-learning director as she organizes training sessions. Some more examples of what faculty are participating in include attending conferences, both virtual and face-to-face, such as the Texas Digital Learning Association. Some people just attended that, I think, a week or two ago. There are other virtual meetings. Faculty are taking courses to earn online teaching certificates, instructional design certificates, master series courses in online learning. Also, consultants are hired to create our own training modules that we own and we will keep for future use. We also are paying faculty stipend to serve as mentors. Those faculty that are experts in online learning, they're being paid a stipend, as I mentioned, to mentor their colleagues, anyone that needs help in designing the online course or the Canvas course. Some faculty are creating courses, Canvas courses, that can be used by the department and the programs as needed, because some people do not have as great expertise, perhaps, as others, or in an emergency, they may need to switch to an online environment. So we have some courses that faculty are creating so that those can be used. More opportunities for training are arising every day to advance professional development. We're very appreciative of this opportunity that the Herf funding provides for professional development.
The next category of the Herf spend plan was to initiate a strategy to prevent and mitigate the spread of COVID-19 on our campuses and in the community. In the fall of 2021, the college implemented a voluntary vaccination incentive program for employees and students. The employees received a one-time incentive payment of $200. We had 706 employees participate in this incentive program, and the value of that was about a little over $215,000. On the student side, it was a one-time incentive payment of a $200 gift card. We had 3,999 students participated, with close to $800,000 spent on that particular item for students. So we were able to distribute a little bit over $1 million, and the program was very successful.
Information technology has used its Herf 2 and 3 funding to address the college's long-term digital infrastructure, as well as to position the school to weather future crises. Currently, over 90% of funds allocated are encumbered in the 4 major areas as depicted in the pie chart to better support both remote learning and work. The largest share of the funding, a little over $3.1 million, about 56%, was allocated to network services and cybersecurity, providing the college the foundation for a safe learning space for students and faculty, along with a secure business environment for college staff. IT personnel are now engaged with several service integrators in the process of scheduling, installing, configuring, testing, and learning to manage the intricacies of the various systems purchased. Some of the systems include next generation firewall, AI-driven security application, robust end detections for unprotected or unmanaged devices, 24/7 networking monitoring service, multi-layered email protection to detect and respond to email-based threats, including spam, phishing, malware, zero-day threats, impersonations, and business email compromise attacks. The college's internet bandwidth was increased from 1 to 10 gigabits to handle increased traffic due to remote work and the delivery of instruction during the pandemic. The second largest category of funding went to support remote learning capacity, 34% or $1.9 million. The majority of these funds upgraded technology and equipment to remove that barrier from the instructional delivery equation to enable a more effective online and blended learning experience to support the current college-at-home environment. Equipment and systems purchased included additional hotspots, laptops for faculty, iPads for social distancing, classroom video hub systems for inter-campus instruction delivery and dual credit classes at local high schools, expansion of lecture capture and presentation-enabled classrooms. The third category, virtual desktops, accounted for 6% or $335,000, provides the college community with an infrastructure to eliminate hardware and software issues for both students and college staff working at home. 2 software services were purchased. The first, Aperto, provides students a portal for a blended learning experience where technology would not be the barrier to completing homework assignments remotely. Specific classes such as networking security, GIS, engineering, gaming, architecture require both optimized hardware and software license that are not generally found at a student's home. Aperto gives access to both the necessary computing power and software license via the Aperto Cloud to students to complete their assignments using their personal devices as a terminal to serve as the input and display unit. Aperto is being piloted in several technology classes this spring for wider use in the fall. The second purchase is Adobe Sign, allowing college personnel and administrators to automate document workflow from start to finish remotely, to get electronic signatures, collect form data, confirm delivery and important documents, and simplify the workflow management routines to recipients in a specific order, with reminders and notification while working remotely. Adobe Sign has improved efficiency by digitizing the workflows for travel requests and reconciliations, the grant submission process, approval process, completing purchase contracts, and many other document-intensive workflow scenarios. And finally, 4%, or $232,000, was used for virtual student support to provide around-the-clock, 24/7 after-hours help on any device to allow students to get the specific technology help to be successful in class or to get the registration financial information for successful enrollment or retention. The college purchased Black Belt help for IT support and a purchase order for Ocelot for student support was recently completed. Black Belt Help currently provides the technical support for computer questions on hardware, software, logins, email, Canvas, and much more. Ocelot, when installed, will provide AI-powered texting for outreach with chat box to support enrollment and FAFSA completion. Ocelot also provides Texas Community College specific videos to educate and promote financial literacy and education debt management. Ocelot, when installed, will be a service that presents to the potential Del Mar student fewer phone calls, lower wait times, and the added bonus of consistency of answers 24/7. And the remaining $400,000 will certainly be encumbered shortly. I have purchase orders in the hopper for that amount of money. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Lee.
Physical facilities is tasked with health and safety facilities enhancements. We had addressed 4 specific areas: indoor air quality, social distancing, furniture, decontamination, touchless restroom fixtures, and water fountains. And we're in the process where we have purchase orders issued for all of these items except for one item that we will discuss a little bit later this afternoon. And we're in the process of having all of these items be completed, that we're on track on all of these projects. And these will make a big difference because these are long-term improvements that we won't have, if there's another COVID or something similar, we'll have these systems in place. Questions?
Mr. Garcia, thank y'all very much. I think as you can see, this truly was a team effort over this whole last year. And we were able to pull in across the campus experts that you saw today that represented their fields and brought great depth to different strategies and the efforts that's taken place. Mr. Garcia?
So there you have it, not a leader, but a facilitator. You heard from all the experts, the in-depth, the detailed thought that went behind those decisions in spending $30.8 million in short order, where 75% through the dollars, 75% way through the contract period, and so we are on target with spending the rest of the dollars, and in the hopes that if we do have an extension, we'll revisit our plan to try to stretch our dollars a little bit more for our students, because we know today there is no end in sight that I know of the pandemic, so more to come on that, okay? Any questions? Yes.
Ms. Averett?
Go ahead.
So did you, and that was my question I was going to ask earlier, did you apply for an extension?
Yes, so we submitted the application last week. It was a collective
Okay.
effort in creating the narrative. I do have some news flash, although it's still a in the rumor mill, but nothing has come out officially. But apparently, there's going to be an automatic extension to the Herf dollars, but it's not official. I'm not going to celebrate until I see the notice coming from the Department of Ed.
Okay.
And is there any flexibility in moving money around the categories? Can you ask to reallocate some of those funds?
We can reallocate within what's institutional funds. There are some requirements that certain percentages be spent on students.
Sure.
But within those categories, we can reallocate.
Great, thank you.
Just an update, I did get a number updated for the $475,000 and 495, so just about a $500,000. That benefited 1,018 students. to
So
answer
we
your
were
question.
able to reduce or eliminate the debt for over 1,000 students.
Correct, 1,018.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
I got a couple questions.
Nice job.
Yes, Mr. Garza?
Hold on.
Well, first off, let me just make a comment. Excellent work. I just think that overall, the pandemic is a challenge, right? Very difficult for everybody, but I think this exercise has made the college, or put the college in a lot better position than we were pre-pandemic timeframe. Two, there's got to be some long-term benefits in terms of marketing. There's some things that we went out and spent dollars on related to trying to get those Herf funds out. And I'm just wondering if there's some elements of our marketing efforts that we might be able to use in future marketing efforts. These are dollars that are one-time opportunities, but in the future, are there some things that we learned that maybe reach our certificate or our continuing education students versus the academic students and vice versa? What do we learn?
Absolutely. And some of the funds that we were actually able to use for marketing were from the Herf funds. So this was in addition to our general marketing efforts. We have the general enrollment campaigns that we do. And so these add-a-class campaigns, these funds for you were on top of that. And so what's interesting is to be able to see that data that we've collected by staggering additional campaigns on top of our general enrollment campaigns to see how effective those may be. So yeah, those are things that we're certainly reviewing. And then, we go back to budgeting, we kind of decide, okay, how are we going to coordinate these dollars off?
Okay,
If
great.
that helps.
Good. And then the last question I had was, in terms of information technology, there's been talk, or something I read about related to a current threat of a Russian threat on our cybersecurity. And I know that we talked about some firewalls that we put in place, and of course, a lot of money we spent in terms of her funds. Do we think we're better positioned right now after this exercise than we were pre-pandemic, and that's just? Okay. All right.
Move to the microphone.
Dr. Lee?
Can you
I'm
just,
so sorry.
The specific company we dealt with or purchased our service from, Fortinet, and they are among the top two companies in cybersecurity. So we've got that area very solidly covered. I have absolute confidence in that particular package. It's multi-layered, the next generation in terms of firewall, and high use of artificial intelligence to quickly identify the threat and to respond to it much faster than any humans could do so. So I feel very confident that we have the best product.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica, as our acting CIO, right behind you, Dr. Lee. Jessica, can you talk about how the process, Dr. Lee has been helping with all the procurement and the assessment and analysis working with your team. Can you talk about how the implementation of and the utilization of these funds for protecting our resources through cybersecurity have gone?
Sure. So Dr. Lee was particularly talking about some new security tools that we've recently purchased, but back in 2020, we had already started that process ahead of these additional purchases. We have tools like Armis and Tenable in place prior to this new onboarding of some new EDR tools and MDR changes going on. But we're in a much better position cybersecurity wise. The tools that we have in place, we're very more protected now than we were 2 years ago. And we're with the conflicts going on, we are actively staying engaged and getting those almost daily reports of security measures that we take on a daily basis with our firewall guys, and we send those updates daily. So we're staying on top of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
I just want to add my compliments to what Mr. Garza said, that the ability of our staff to find in all of the Herf allocations over the last 2 years, to be able to quickly get the dollars out to students, which was the priority. You hear there are some other elements not related to higher education, but other elements of the relief packages that had difficulty reaching the intended audience. Some of the rental assistance programs and those kinds of things, where you just hear horror stories about the inability of entities to distribute the money where it was needed. So I know that that this was layered work on top of everything else that was happening, but I do want to applaud Dr. Escamilla and your team for doing the work, doing it efficiently, and reporting such good results to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Regents. I want to say, because Regent Scott, what you just referred to, the student services team worked huge hours, tremendous hours, addressing individual student needs. These thousands of students that were touched individually, that was individual work. Then when you take what Dr. Lee led and Jessica Montalvo Cummings led through the IT portion with the logistics supply chain issues, on addition, top of everyone's work, and then with what we're going to have with physical facilities, they're enabling, really bringing in the new additions to the campuses themselves, to old facilities, just making things safer and cleaner, healthier. The overall effect is going to be tremendous.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you again. We're going to move on to our next item, which is the report on our property tax collections. Mr. Garcia and Mr. Johnson.
Yes, okay. Okay, so at our last board meeting, we learned that half of the community colleges in our state, including Del Mar College, depends on an elevated tax and tuition funding strategy. Property taxes alone represents over half of Del Mar College's operating fund, with a reported value of $58.2 million for the 2022 budget plan year. So we're going to focus our attention on property taxes today. With that said, top of mind is the financial impact to the college's property tax collections from pending property tax litigations and changing monetary and fiscal policies. We will take a deeper look at these trending matters in today's presentation. Sure. As a backdrop to our discussion, I want to begin to talk about a little bit more on the district's property tax profile to set the stage for today's presentation. Our tax profile consists of 7 wide categories, with single-family homes representing the largest category in the district, with a valuation of near $16 billion for the 2021 year. The commercial and industry category is a distant second and third, respectively, with valuations nearing $7 billion. From 2019 to 2021, the district's property valuations increased by $3 million during the pandemic, mainly in the single-family homes category, while industry valuations remained flat. This upward valuation trajectory for single homes is consistent with trends seen at the national levels and is attributed in part to the low interest rate environment and fiscal policy. Back in May of 2020, the National Association of Home Builders reported an average low in the 30-year mortgage rate of 3.25% and an average low in the 15-year mortgage rate of 2.3%. On the matter of federal emergency assistance programs for homeowners, Marina Walsh, Vice President of Industry Analysis at Mortgage Bankers Association, reported back in February of 2020. The strong performance in single-family homes is attributed in part to mortgage forbearance, foreclosure moratoriums, enhanced unemployment benefits, and stimulus payments that have helped the distressed homeowners remain in their homes. With this historical context, we will now transition to trending housing market indicators to determine if there's anything alarming about changes that we are seeing today in this current interest rate environment and changes to the federal emergency assistance programs for homeowners. So single-family housing in our district performed very well throughout the pandemic, with the average sales price and the average price per square footage reaching an all-time high by the fourth quarter of 2021. The average sales price increased by 62% from $214,000 in March of 2019 to $346,000 in December 2021. The average price per square footage, another measurement, increased by 52% from $125 in March of 2019 to $190 in December of 2021. As previously mentioned, this is attributed in part to the low interest rate environment paired with federal emergency assistance programs for homeowners. It appears we are now at an inflection point whereby escalating inflation paired with increase in the price per barrel of crude oil and reduced unemployment rate is warranting changes in federal monetary policy. The Fed, however, recently signaled an increase to the Fed funds rate beginning in March with the possibility of further increases in the near future. Top of mind then is where things will go when, with these increases in the cost of borrowing. This is creating a certain level of uncertainty on the directional change to housing demand paired with capital investment for new housing construction, both of which determine in part our district's property valuations. The college will continue to monitor these two indicators and factor trending changes into our property tax collection rates when we come back in a few months with a proposed 2023 budget. The next two national economic indicators on the next slide speaks to the effectiveness of the federal emergency assistance funding. Any questions?
Mr. Garcia.
Yes, sir.
I know they're not your figures, but $190 a square foot in Corpus?
In the district, yes.
So the $346,000 average house is 1,800 square feet? I haven't seen it. I'm in the south side. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where those numbers are coming from. And I know they're not your numbers.
I would have to defer to the Texas A&M Real Estate Center monthly housing reports.
I saw the caveat.
Yeah, sorry about that.
What I've seen, what I've read, recent articles, Mr. Bennett, is about 160 to 165 for pre-owned homes, 190 up to 190, even beyond that for brand new homes. So there's kind of a spread in there.
And I'm driving around those new neighborhoods around Yorktown, and they're 1,800 square feet, but they're not 346,000.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I know you're not either.
There's a range in there. There's a range in there, I'm sure. Probably,
there is a range. Yes, there is a range.
There's some custom. I've seen some custom homes that are pushing that.
Okay. Any other easier questions? Thank you. All right. Moving right along. Single-family housing in our district performed very well throughout the pandemic. with average sales prices and average price per square footage, and I think I went through this already. Moving right along. We will now turn our attention to the federal assistance programs for homeowners. The effects of the foreclosure moratorium was immediate, resulting in downward trend of the loan and foreclosure rate to a low of 0.5% in the fourth quarter of 2021. The foreclosure moratorium temporarily prevented and suspended foreclosure actions. So that's why you see a downward trend in the rates. On the other hand, there was a delayed response in the mortgage delinquency rate when the mortgage forbearance policy was first introduced. A mortgage forbearance includes a temporary postponement or reduced mortgage payments with higher monthly payments at the end of the forbearance period and without affecting the creditor, the credit score. So one possibility for the delayed response is the time requirements for applying, negotiating new payment loan terms and the approval process. So accordingly, the mortgage delinquency rate peaked in the second quarter of 2020 to that rate of 8.2%, but immediately scaled down thereafter to a low rate of 4.7 in the fourth quarter of 2022. So these federal fiscal policies, as well as others such as the enhanced unemployment benefits and the stimulus payments introduced during the pandemic, have expired with no indication that they will be extended. Accordingly, this is also adding a certain level of uncertainty to the college's property tax revenue collections in the near future. Once again, the college will continue to monitor these activities, and we will factor these trending changes into our property tax collection rates when we come back in a few months with a proposed 2023 budget. If there are no questions, Mr. John Johnson will lead us into the discussion on property tax collection rates and pending property tax litigation.
Good afternoon. The final two slides which I will be presenting give one, a historical background of property tax collections through the second quarter as a percentage of budget, and two, factors which have influenced final outcomes and those which are currently still pending. Looking at the first slide, the chart gives a 12-year analysis of where collections stood at the end of the second quarter. During that period, collections ranged from a high of 96.10% in year 2011 to a low of 92.57 in year 21. Typically, minimum collection rate of somewhere between 94 and 95% is a good indicator the total budget for the fiscal year will be met. As shown in year 22, the collection rate as of the second quarter was 94.51%, which is within the acceptable rate. So what happened in year 21? Due to the downturn in the economy, obviously caused by the pandemic and bankruptcies, collections fell to an all-time low of 92.57%. In addition, the settlement of a lawsuit for piers extending into Nueces Bay, which were being taxed by both counties, was settled with a refund being paid by the district of $460,000. Now, looking at year 16, you will note that collections fell to 92.64%. While the economy was good and a pending lawsuit for years 2014 and 15 against the appraisal district by a major petrochemical industry contesting their valuations was settled. As part of the settlement, the college was ordered to refund total taxes totaling $1.1 million. That leads me to the next slide. Currently, two major petrochemical companies have outstanding lawsuits with the appraisal district protesting their valuations for year 2018 through 2021. Neither timeline to judgment or monetary impact can be determined at this time. As mentioned previously, lawsuits on piers extending into the Nueces Bay was settled. We have not received the final amount to be refunded for 2 entities, but currently estimates put the amount in the range of $100,000. Just as a reminder, the college set aside a risk reserve fund of $8.6 million to deal with these sort of outstanding issues. Are there any questions?
I do. So after, if you could, I look at property tax collection rates, and that leads me to believe that people aren't paying, your explanation around the 2 big entities that we had to refund is
Right.
what impacted that.
Right.
I wish there was a way that we could show this chart outside of that, so that we would know our taxes being collected, or people defaulting on their taxes. I'm not asking the question very clearly.
I agree with you, because I think those were an issue.
I mean,
was
I can
evaluation.
do that if
Correct.
if you're talking about the payment of current taxes outside the refunding issue.
Yes.
I get that report every month from the appraisal, from the Nueces County Tax Office, that indicates what percentage of current taxes are collected.
Okay. Yes, because I think that gives me a better indication of our budgeting, and we always budget something less than 100% collection.
Right.
Based on delinquencies and other things, and so that would give me a better indication historically what that number ought to be.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I think on this graph, we can show the 2 major anomalies, right? That would be the 2016 and the 2021. The 2021 being the pandemic, and some litigation settlements in the 2016. You exclude those two years, you're pretty much.
Keep COVID, because that made sense,
Yeah,
and we
right.
can
Yeah.
all explain it,
Right.
but when you look at 2021, you're going, oh, that's a COVID impact.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's COVID and it's a refund.
Right.
So that,
But
Well,
overall, the other years, I think
Yeah.
they're pretty much.
Well, for instance, in year 21, we refunded $460,000. That represents about 0.5, half of 1% of collection. So our collections, taking that out of the calculation, your collections would be somewhere around 93%. That difference would be caused by COVID.
correct.
And for year 16, you would add $1.1 million back to our collections, and that would represent about 1.25% of the amount of 92.64 that was shown there. So you would be up in about the 94% range, which would be what I would consider what the minimum collection should be toward our budget, to meet our budget.
Because to me, if we could have an equitable, taking out those refunds, because those refunds really refer to several years back. So to take, quote unquote, that refund out of 21 is almost not, that doesn't make sense. You should take it out of 2018 or 2017 or whenever those taxes were.
Correct. And like I said, I have a report, in fact, I think
Yeah.
it goes back 15 years, that shows every month how much we've collected, so I could actually do that. It shows current year collections, and that would obviously be what you're looking
Right.
for.
Because this number, I don't often like to look in the rearview mirror about a lot of things except to show that kind of trend line, so, or what we should expect, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thanks for helping me clarify what my question was.
So yes, we'll definitely build on improving this schedule, and we'll have, we'll come back later when we talk about the budget with an updated version of this presentation. So thank you. All right. So thanks, John. And so a key takeaway from this presentation is that we are now entering a new inflection point to the crisis attributed to changes in our external economic environment. In planning for the 2023 budget year, the college will continue to monitor trending housing market indicators, tax collections, and property tax litigation in order to make informed recommendations relating to property tax collection for the planned budget year. And then I'll just emphasize again what John already said. We do have a risk reserve fund for $8.6 million. This fund is intended to help buffer any downward revenue pressures caused by business interruptions such as what we're experiencing today, and that is a pandemic, or any litigations and changes in fiscal and monetary policy. Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. President, that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr.
Yes.
Johnson, any other questions? All right. We will hear back now from Dr. Christina Wilson on the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board revisions to their strategic plan.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be able to provide you with an update today. We had gotten into a regular habit of taking a look at the state strategic plan, but activities were put on hold for a little while, so I'm happy to be able to provide you with new information today. I think we're all familiar with the 60 by 30 plan, but I'll give a little bit of background information. In 2015, the 60 by 30 TX strategic plan for higher education was established. The title of the plan, 60 by 30, refers to the plan's overarching goal. By 2030, at least 60% of Texans aged 25 to 34 will have a certificate or degree. The plan included 4 overall goals with state-level targets, and the plan also established targets based on regions throughout the state. Let's discuss the original goals of 60 by 30. The first goal reflects the plan's overarching objective, as I just mentioned, that 60% of Texans aged 25 to 34 will have a certificate or degree by 2030. The second goal, titled Completion, set a target of 550,000 credentials to be earned across the state annually. The marketable skills goal aimed for all graduates from Texas public institutions of higher education to have completed programs with identified marketable skills. And finally, the student debt goal stated that undergraduate student loan debt will not exceed 60% of first-year wages for graduates of Texas public institutions. Del Mar College has actively worked to meet the goals of the state strategic plan. Our own strategic plan and key performance indicators have been aligned with the goals of 60 by 30. And the college has also been involved in regional efforts to implement the plan. In February of 2019, we hosted a group of representatives from the Middle South Texas region, which included representatives from Texas A&M Corpus Christi, Texas A&M Kingsville, Laredo College, and Victoria College. The participants engaged in discussions about how best to collaborate as a region to meet the goals and targets of the 60 by 30 plan. In October of 2020, during the coordinating board's quarterly meeting, the Commissioner of Higher Education, Dr. Harrison Keller, announced that there was a need to refresh the state's strategic plan. He described the limitations of the plan, which we've touched on here in previous presentations, including the fact that the plan focused on younger working population only and not all adult learners. It also promoted generic completion goals and did not include credentials earned through continuing education programs. Since the time of this announcement, Dr. Keller and his team have collaborated with stakeholders across the state as part of the plan refresh process. Last month, Dr. Keller presented the proposed new strategic plan with the members of the coordinating board. The board accepted the proposed plan structure, and since then, the 60 by 30 TX plan is no more. It's gone. The new plan is titled, drum roll please, Building a Talent-Strong Texas. No more numbers, no more 60 by 30. The focus is building a talent-strong Texas. It is built on the foundation of the 60 by 30 plan, so you'll see some common themes. But Dr. Keller mentioned that this new plan does not back down from the goals of 60 by 30. Instead, it adds to it. The new plan has 3 goals: attainment, credentials of value, and research. We'll be talking about each of these goals individually. A focus on equity will play a large role in the pursuit of all goals, as well as coordination among all sectors and stakeholder groups. Okay, so let's start with the first goal, credential attainment. The aim is now to increase the attainment to 60% across all working age adults, to increase employment opportunities and income for individuals, creating a deeper talent pool for employers, and aligning skills with the increasing number of jobs requiring a post-secondary education. That's a mouthful. The content highlighted in red on the slide before you, there we go, is new. You will see that there are now 2 goal statements which reflect 60% targets for both the 25 to 34 and the 35 to 64 age groups. Current attainment rates for both groups are included in the blue table. Rates are at around 46% for both age groups. Additionally, the clause regarding other post-secondary credentials of value is included in both statements. This reflects a new commitment to include not only credit degrees and certificates, but also continuing education certificates as well. The second goal is credentials of value. The aim is that by 2030, all degrees, certificates, and other credentials awarded by public institutions of higher education should be credentials of value, and every student should have the opportunity to complete a credential of value with no or manageable debt. So let's talk about credentials of value. This is a new term, brand new term. This is a presentation to the coordinating board, so we really haven't gotten into the specifics of how this will be calculated. There's no baseline data for us to look at, but how they're defining it is credentials in which a student completing them sees a net positive return within 10 years relative to the earnings of a high school graduate. Now that's something Raul Garcia can sink his teeth into. He loves his data, but we currently do not have baseline data. I expect we'll be getting some soon. The content highlighted in red is new. The 60 by 30 plan did include this target, as I mentioned already, of 550,000 students completing a credential each year, but now the concept of credentials of value has been added.
Before we move on, I want to stop on these 2 slides. And I want to make a comment on this one, then I want to invite Dr. Escamilla to comment on the credentials of value, because I know he's itching to do that over here. Part of the reason why I wanted to talk about the U.S. Census data, the U.S. Census Bureau wage information and that dashboard that we looked at is the opportunity for us to look at programs related to return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's tuition out of our students' pocket, whether it's tuition out of a Pell grant or a scholarship, however that tuition is paid, what is the return on investment? And we ought to be seriously looking at the wage outcomes, not just completion. Completion is the first step in that, but what are the wage outcomes? As a college, we ought to be looking at that. So I think I'm so excited to see the discussion as a state talking about those longer-term outcome kind of issues. So I think all of this is beginning to dovetail together for me.
So how is this going to be measured? It's based on completion of programs? How are you going to be tracking people for 10 years to see if they've made good decisions? I mean, how are you going to, I just wondering.
So there's a data project going on right now. There's data that community colleges, San Jacinto and a couple of others and Amarillo have worked very hard at developing a collective agreement between the coordinating boards and student data and the Texas Workforce Commission and what those same students are earning 1 year, 5 year, 10 years out. There is now a pilot program amongst some very large colleges to extend that work, because it took them years to get that initial agreement and data collection conversation to happen. The Gates Foundation is now funding a pilot program to expand that to another 6 or 8 colleges. And part of the conversation that I hope we're going to have at the state level, a commission, both through Dr. Escamilla's workforce work group as well as my college operations work group, is how do we expand that data collection for all 50 community colleges such that we can collect that information. Have it confidential so that you're not looking at individual wage information so that you can take care of privacy concerns. But in order for us to know whether or not we have achieved a net positive return 10 years after graduation, again, it might not be for all students, but what is that credential of value and how are we seeing that? So there's layers to this, and I think that conversation is happening not just at this table, but across the state, which I think is very, very heartening. I want you to talk about credentials of value.
Sure. So we have long been proponents of valuing credentials of all sorts, both long-term and short-term for years here at the college, even when it wasn't very cool, okay, to the coordinating board. And but nevertheless, these credentials, these short-term credentials, and I'm gonna pick a prime credential out there. I'm gonna say the truck driving program. Is a prime example of a very short-term, high-output program where students go through in a matter of a few short weeks, turn around, and are able to jump into careers and or jobs, using those synonymously right now, to advance and to make a very nice living. In fact, the data that shows from the U.S. Census poll that's out there puts them at the 60+ thousand to begin with. We all know what they're doing now. They're running the economy. They're fueling the economy, and they're making upwards of six figures and the like. So using that as an example, we have been, and I'm going to say in the minority at the state of the 50 colleges, hooping and hollering at the state for years. And finally, our new commissioner has been lending his ear to this and really taking seriously the idea of credentials of value. Now, I am going to say that we had a part in this. And whatever part that was, proportion, I don't care, but we had a part in this. Because Del Mar College is an anomaly. It is an outlier in a good way, in the way of production of these credentials for our students and our community, first and foremost, for our community, because it matters to them first and foremost. We were doing it when people weren't paying attention, and now the world is paying attention to us, and they're rewriting the state's blueprint to acknowledge those and stay tuned, we think, to reward them in a better way, to fund them in a better way. Currently, they are paid on contact hours, the vast majority, so certainly the preponderance of those credentials that are offered through continuing education and those short-term credentials of value are reimbursed with contact hours, but in a very meager fashion, and that's the discussion that we're continuing to advance. We can go on, and I'm not going to, because you wind me up on this one and watch me go. I'll be here for a while, but all that to say is stay tuned, because I expect to bring back a full rest of the story conversation that's going to be derived from the workforce education subgroup that I'm leading as part of the commission. To your question, another answer to your question, Dr. Turner, about how is this measured and the pilot that's taking place, TSTC, Texas State Technical College, is funded exactly on that basis right there, on a value add, job placement, value add, completion, performance kind of thing, not on contact hours, and that's been the case since 2013. We are watching them very carefully. We are engaging them, and I will bring that information back here as well. First, I'm taking that information to the state as part of the Commission on Community College Finance. Again, what's happening now, I remember the commissioner talking to him and saying, Commissioner, how can you measure that and or even value that which we do not even document or write down? It's not in the plan, and yet we're doing all this great work on these short-term credentials. And he stopped and he said, let me write that down, because that is absolutely the truth. That's all I'm going to say for today.
Well, I wanted to give you the opportunity to say that, because
Thank you.
Again, there have been leading voices in this area of work across the state, and Dr. Escamilla and Del Mar College have been a leading voice in that effort, and I think we need to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
You may continue. Sorry, that
Thank
was our
you.
commercial.
It is exciting that these changes are happening. It really is. And I think stay tuned is the right phrase because there is quite a bit of complexity, as Chairwoman Scott mentioned, behind the measurements. And so I think this will be many months, if not years, down the road, looking at prior data, collecting new data. But I think that this documents what you put on paper, what you put on your strategic plan, documents the values. So a very good step in the right direction. The second component of the Credentials of Value goal addresses student debt. 95% of students completing Credentials of Value at public institutions will have no or manageable undergraduate student debt. This is another new target that we don't have baseline data for yet, but under the prior 60 by 30 plan, we did look at student debt. We were below state average. We did well as an institution. I think they're seeking to be more aggressive with making sure that this is manageable. And as Chairwoman Scott mentioned, that we're not just producing credentials in a vacuum, that we're ensuring that students are making the adequate wages to compensate for any debt they may have accumulated. The final goal addresses research and development. This was a component of the plan prior to 60 by 30 titled Closing the Gaps, and it's now being added back to the state strategic plan. The first part of this goal aims for Texas to be a leading state in generating knowledge through basic and applied research, translating it to innovations and discoveries, and partnering with industry at all levels to use this knowledge to drive the economy. Current research expenditures are provided in the blue table. The state is targeting an increase of $1 billion in annual federal and private expenditures brought into Texas by 2030. The second part of this goal focuses on increasing the number of research doctorates. The target is to increase the number awarded annually by Texas institutions to 7,500, with meaningful increases across race, ethnicity, and sex or gender. Baseline data is provided in the blue table, and I will pause here for any questions regarding this goal or any of the prior new goals. So it was a great presentation, I'll tell you, that Dr. Keller gave, but this is what he gave us. And I, again, fully anticipate lots of detailed information to come. In his presentation, the commissioner made it clear that it will be crucial to begin tracking continuing education credentials. Regent Scott also mentioned data dashboard project. He mentioned that as well. We can expect data dashboards. The commissioner did admit that the state does not currently have processes in place to collect continuing education data, and he's committed to getting that done. As a college, we'll be following this closely, not just in my office, but I know all of you will, Dr. Escamilla, Chairwoman Scott. And I anticipate that the new state goals and targets will be built into our existing strategic plan and the soon-to-be developed new strategic plan. It's almost that time to start developing our new strategic plan. We are also anxiously awaiting follow-up guidance from the state to help operationalize this new Building a Talent Strong Texas plan. So this concludes the presentation, and I'll pause for any final comments or questions.
I could talk about this stuff all day long, but I won't. We have other stuff on our agenda today.
Exciting things happening, very exciting. It was a short presentation that he gave, but the coordinating board members were riled up, eager, and interested. They want to make sure our data reflects what's happening, and it'll be really interesting to see how this unfolds. Under 60 by 30, there were many materials that were developed, many opportunities for collaboration. So I would hope that the same would happen under this new plan. So very exciting things. We waited for about a year and a half, 2 years for this update, and I think it was well worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. All right, that's it for our staff reports today. We will look at our pending business items. We had a whole slew of things on our agenda for today that we are considering. In April, we will have another quarterly financial and investment report. as well as our enrollment update and internal audit report to the board. We will have a May board meeting. We just don't have pending items, so knock on wood, that might be a shorter meeting than usual, but we'll see. I'm sure Dr. Escamilla will dream up something that we need to do on the May agenda. Maybe finish our report from this morning that we didn't get to, Dr. Wilson. We'll try to do that in April. Anything on the pending item list that we need to cover or is not there that you're expecting to see there? Let's move on to our consent agenda items. On our consent agenda, we have approval of minutes from December and from February. We have acceptance of investment reports for January and February and financials for January. Do any of those items need to be pulled for separate consideration? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt our consent agenda as presented? Thank you, Mr. Garza. Second by Mr. Kelly. Any public comment on our consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll now move down to item number 6, which is discussion and possible action related to the adoption of our joint federal community college agenda for the 117th Congress. Dr. Villarreal is going to present this information. I don't want you all to think that it is, well, you've already been to Washington, why are we adopting it now? We typically do adopt it in January prior to attending. It wasn't out in December, and we didn't have that January meeting, and so there was a little bit of disconnect there. But this is, we want to adopt this so that staff and our congressional and senatorial delegation know what our adopted position is. Dr.
Thank you, Regent Scott. Good afternoon, Regents. So as part of our strategic plan, advocacy is a robust part of what we do here as the Board of Regents, as well as our faculty and staff. And so along with our state advocacy work that we've been talking about, also included is our federal work. And so I bring forth to you today the consideration of the 117th Joint Legislative Agenda. This is put forth by the American Association of Community Colleges, AACC, and also ACCT, which is your association, the Association of Community College Trustees. So just to give you an idea, the amount of students, faculty, and staff that this work encompasses, the total number of community colleges represented are over 1,000 in the United States. Looking at fall 2018 enrollment, this includes 11.8 million students that we're advocating for. This includes 6.8 credit and 5 million non-credit students. Some of the highlights on this federal agenda include our federal Pell grants. So you're hearing a lot of work that we're doing at the state level, really whittling down to things such as our budget, our curriculums, work with our faculty and staff. But these are the big bucket items at the federal level that can really help each and every one of our students, not just at Del Mar College, not just at community colleges, but universities as well all over the United States. So one of the priorities that I'd like to draw your attention to are the federal Pell grants. The advocacy work really centers around preserving and enhancing the grants, extending Pell grants to short-term programs, and also increasing the amount of Pell. Some other suggested items on this agenda include the support of Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, also known as FSEOG, and our federal work study programs. If you look over to the second page, you'll see a robust amount of initiatives, including work for our veterans, which you know veterans are the base of our community colleges, of who we serve, and we do as much as we can to support our veterans. There's a huge part in this agenda devoted to our veterans, including things to our adult basic ed, career and technical programs, and our international education programs. So this agenda was what we were able to take to us, to our legislators in February. So Congressman Cloud's office has seen this agenda, and we did have a robust discussion with him, not specifically about the current plans that are out there, but really about what we need specifically for our students, our faculty and staff. And so that's what Regent Scott, Averett, and Dr. Escamilla were able to discuss with him. And we also have given these agendas to our senators as well, Senator Cornyn and Cruz, and so they are also very aware of what our priorities are for our students. Dr. Escamilla, Regent Scott, Regent Averett, would you like to add to that?
The only thing I have is that, as a specific example that really ties back into our previous conversation to this conversation, is that there is a pilot program and opportunity for continuing education in federal Pell. And we are already exploring the possibility of that here at Del Mar College. And particularly, I think we're going to kick off with the truck driving program and Pell eligibility with that. I've just spoke with Dr. Leonard Rivera and Vice President Patricia Dominguez for that opportunity. That has been long discussed, and I remember being with the Obama administration, working with them and talking about those pilot efforts. Those are now being institutionalized slower. I think those will become more the rule than the exception in the future. So stay tuned there, but we will bring that back to you once we implement. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, Regents, we have an opportunity to take action regarding our concurrence or adoption of the joint federal community college agenda for this current Congress. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Dr. Adami. Second by Ms. Hutchison. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We do have a guest in the audience for agenda item number 8. So we are going to jump to agenda item number 8 and have Mr. Garcia come back up and talk about our inclusive access pilot for our summer and fall 2022.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Much appreciated for this adjustment. So good afternoon. The Inclusive Action Program is a book purchasing program that the college, in partnership with the Texas Bookstore Company, would like to pilot with a test group this summer and fall. This initiative supports Goal 3, academic preparedness and student learning, and Goal 5, financial effectiveness and affordability of the college's strategic plan. More specifically, the program helps drive student attainment for academic preparedness and ensures optimal levels of learning by making their books and related materials available on the first day of class. In addition, students will experience a reduction in cost in their books and materials by as much as 50%. Just as important, this initiative is respectful of faculty's academic freedom, who will make a determination whether or not to adopt this program for their respective class programming. This initiative has been discussed with various stakeholders, including student government and faculty. Our partner, Mark Ruiz from Texas Book Company, is here today to deliver a short presentation about the program. We will also have today a special guest, Sofia Jimenez, she's the president of student government, and Dr. Jana Halcom, who will share some perspective about this pilot initiative. Mr. Ruiz?
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Well, thank you in advance for your time and attention today. I want to continue the excitement that Dr. Wilson brought to the podium in terms of student success at Del Mar, and I believe that student affordability with their course materials can go right along with that student success model. Is there a... Okay, got it. Okay. So let's talk about the agenda. I'm going to introduce the program to you, talk about student benefits, faculty benefits, share some collected data on programs across Texas, share the participants in those pilots, and then also share some of those results with you. So what is inclusive access? Well, it's a method of providing access to digital course materials, both courseware, which is computer software, ebooks, all on the first day of class, integrated into the Del Mar College LMS system, which is Canvas. Those course materials are substantially discounted, and as Raul mentioned, up to 50% off the traditional pricing of print text and bundled courseware. Those course materials would be charged at the time of student registration for each of those courses that are chosen for the pilot. And then very importantly, students do have an ability to opt out prior to the census day of each term, and they have multiple ways to do that. If they'd like to find their course materials somewhere else on their own, they can opt out using the LMS Canvas. They can opt out by clicking a link that will be emailed to them after they register for each of the chosen courses, or they can contact the campus bookstore. In addition, I wanted to also say that this program, in 2015, the U.S. Department of Education issued federal guidance for institutions of higher learning to charge course materials as part of tuition and fees in an effort to ensure students have the critical learning resources they need to be successful. That is House Bill 1027. So what are some of the student benefits? Course materials are going to be available on the first day of class, integrated into Canvas for them. It's been shown that students with first day materials show a 20% improvement in retention and class success. And as Raul mentioned, again, up to 50% off the cost of printed textbooks and courseware. As I mentioned already, easy opt-out options if they'd like to find the materials on their own. The course materials charge is going to be paid at the time of registration. And then students can complete homework on the first day of class if assigned. So what would the student experience in Del Mar's Canvas system look like? Something like this. They would see the exact book that is the required material. They would be able to begin reading. They even have an option to opt out. As you see, there's an easy click in the center, and it also gives them a clear date of how long they have to opt out. So what are some of the faculty benefits? Well, faculty will continue to choose the content. They still have full academic freedom with no restraints. As I said, the system integrates into Canvas for them with a single sign-on access for them to access the materials that they've chosen. Students can begin their online homework assignments if they choose to assign them. And it's been shown that students that have increased interaction with course content lead to greater success in their course and improved retention rates. Again, faculty experience in Canvas is going to look very similar to what students would see. So we've surveyed many faculty members across different departments all over campus, and we are proposing these particular courses for the upcoming summer 22 term and the fall 22 term as a pilot program. And as you can see, there's a wide range of savings at the low side from 26% and at the high side 50%. In every case, students are saving money. In particular, I wanted to show you the Fit and Well book, which is used by Dr. Judy Phillips for kinesiology. Her book in particular, the printed retail on that is over $130. The inclusive access ebook price would be $85 and some change. Students save over $48, which is a 50% savings. Next, we have another example. This is the We the People government book taught by Dr. Adrian Clark, Government 2305. And as you can see, 47% savings, $72 over the printed bundled courseware and textbook. I wanted to share some of the participants in pilot programs across Texas. In particular, College of the Mainland in Texas City. These are some statistics from their fall 21 term. They adopted 25 titles with 84 sections included. There were over 1,500 students enrolled. 1,535 chose to participate and not opt out. There was 27 total opt-outs for a 98.3% participation rate. And those particular students saved over $185,000 on those same course materials. Another example, which is a campus bookstore that we run up in Commerce, Texas, Texas A&M University Commerce. Some statistics from fall 21, 18 titles, 123 sections, opt-out rate of 99.3%, participation rate that is, saved over $104,000. And then lastly, I wanted to show you a college that's just up the road on 37, Coastal Bend College. They have been participating in an inclusive access program pilot for going on 2 years now. In the fall of 21, they chose to adopt 44 titles and ultimately saved their students over $200,000 in course material fees. So what would be the next steps for this? Well, obviously coming to you to attain your approval for us to begin this pilot project is critical. And we plan to, once approved hopefully, we plan to share these results. We plan to do a faculty and student survey sometime in mid-fall of 22, collect those responses, and share that data. So, as Raul mentioned, I've already presented this program to several departments across campus, the executive team, the faculty council, student government, the social sciences department, the student engagement and retention group, and very importantly, the Del Mar IT and LMS program coordinators. And of all those meetings, I'm sharing some of the very important questions that I felt like would be important to share with you today. So the first of which is, how is the perceived digital divide addressed? And the digital divide definition is the gulf between those that have computers and internet access and those that do not. Well, for several semesters, the proposed pilot courses that you've seen have been adopting ebooks and courseware already. In addition to that, students will pay a reduced price for the materials and have it directly integrated into their Canvas. Students can download, now this is from a technical perspective, students can download a bookshelf, which is an ebook reader, onto 2 computers and up to 2 mobile devices for a total of 4 devices at a time, and they can access those materials 100% of the time without internet access, as long as they download it to those devices. A very important question asked from a member of the Student Government Association: what if I like to print my pages of my ebook? Is that possible? Well, yes, it is. There are some print restrictions, and those are set by each individual publisher, but most titles offer 100% printability, and they can typically print up to 2 pages at a time. Another question we received was, why is this an opt-out versus an opt-in program? Well, inclusive access programs incentivize publishers to discount materials up to 50% off. Opt-in programs do not offer discounted pricing. And then lastly, why is the course materials charge a variable price instead of a fixed price? Well, inclusive access programs incentivize publishers to negotiate pricing, and remember that faculty are able to still choose the materials of their choice. And in addition, publishers can lower costs each year, and we can pass along those savings on to our students. So I wanted to share some of those important questions that I've collected from different folks on campus. I also made the presentation to Dr. Janda Halcomb and her group, Beverly Cage and her group, and I can open it up to questions now.
Well, I think just as important, you know, we try to be very transparent and with the entire college community. We engage a lot of folks, a lot of committees, a lot of groups. And so I think just as important, it would be great to hear from our student government president, Sofia Jimenez, for her to share her perspective on what she heard and what she thinks this program will do for the college and the students.
Before you start, can we ask just a couple of questions before we go to the student perspective? Stay there, yeah, stay there, please.
Yeah, it shouldn't take long, and it's more, I think, to what you said. I think it's a fascinating idea, the innovativeness of it. Do I understand you can opt in and out, or excuse me, opt out selectively? So you do it, is it?
By course, yes.
By course, not
Yes.
by text. So if one
Correct.
course had 3 texts, you'd be opting, you would stay opted in, or you would opt out of all of those?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
For each individual course,
And how long do you have access to those?
for the semester.
Okay. And what if you drop the class?
You will be, if you drop the class, we will follow the same rules that the billing department at Del Mar would follow.
So you get your money back?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And do you factor in the thought that some students would either resale their books if they actually had texts? I mean, there's some they're paying a higher price. Does your model still make sense if the students are losing the opportunity to resell something?
Well, again, this model is ebooks and
Right, so you
computer
obviously
software, so there would
can't.
be nothing to sell back. But if a student wants to find the book, the printed book on their own, they would opt out, buy that book, and then we would still buy that book back at the campus store.
So I like the idea that if a student decided one particular text was one that they would either resell, pass down to a little brother, or keep, there may be some that they want to keep beyond the semester, that they could do that on a selective basis.
They could do that, and we would buy it back from them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this initial piece? Yes, Dr. Villarreal.
Just a couple of things. One, is there some type of app that if they did this, they'd be able to still be able to highlight and write notes the way we do in a textbook? I know some
Yes.
students need that. Is that possible?
Yes, that's part of the technology of this. It's an ebook, and it would be an ebook reader, and
So you
they're
can
designed
annotate
for
and you
that.
can- okay,
For
very good.
highlighting, for notes in the available margins, things like that.
And I may have missed this, and I apologize if I did. I know in our public schools, many students don't have laptops, they don't have Chromebooks, whatever, and the district provides them those. Are we talking about, we're not talking about anything like that, we're talking about just the ebooks. They would have to have their own computers and their own devices, correct?
Correct, and I'd like to add that the campus store carries a very affordable laptops and tablet computers year-round, and those are available for purchase on a student's financial aid.
And also, Mark, if they can access it through their Canvas, through their LMS, so in effect, they can get to whatever computer, if they were borrowing a computer in the store.
Correct.
So that if we go to, if they come to campus, that they can actually use our computer, or if they go to Ant's house, then they can borrow the computer there and access it real time through their Canvas LMS system.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've got versatility there. Yep.
When they download an ebook, do they keep it forever?
It's typically, the access is typically given for the semester, but it depends on the title. Some titles will go longer than that. Some are 6 months, some are a year. It depends on the publisher and title.
Some of these are reference books that you might have to refer back to in your junior year, so that wouldn't be available then.
Possibly. It depends on the restrictions of each title.
That's why I like the answer that if you thought you wanted to keep a book, you'd opt out for that one. You can always go back to doing it the old way, is what I see. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see any downside with it, other than you don't keep the book.
It's one more option for our students, and when Mark approached Raul and Raul approached me, and you know, it was like, and I'd heard that all of the other institutions were participating. It was time for us to at least pilot. The other piece of all of this is the question may have crossed your mind, well, why are we approving it? Well, it's a student charge, albeit on a pilot basis. It's a student charge, and anything that has to do with that affects the students' pricing and so price points, we bring it to the Regents. So we just said, and we want to share it with y'all. So we just erred on the side of caution and brought it to you all for consideration of approval. But
We do have a couple more, Bill and then Libby.
Okay, I'll wait.
All right, and I'm seeing the price comparison to, I'm assuming, new books. Do we know how much these costs compare if you were buying used books? I mean, I almost was exclusively used books when I went to college.
Sure. And one thing I did not point out when we showed the proposed courses is every one of those required materials for those courses was courseware and ebooks, meaning you can only buy it new only.
Oh,
So this is being
so they're all ebooks anyway.
Yes.
So this is just, and when you buy for full retail, you own the book and you get to keep it, or is it a licensing?
No, it's a licensing thing.
So it's the same product, just at a discount.
Correct. But it depends on a faculty. If a faculty member uses a printed textbook, we can show them the price comparison between new and used versus inclusive access if they would like to explore this.
Okay, so the pilot project is just, the original book is not in printed form. It would be an ebook regardless.
Correct.
Okay.
Again, all of those courses have already historically been using courseware and/or ebooks.
Okay, that certainly helps me, and I will certainly support this if this is what you and the staff want to do. The cost still seemed high to me, frankly. I think all of us have purchased an ebook. Granted, I know textbooks are more expensive, and we talked about buying used books and things like that, but the cost for an ebook seemed really high to me, and that was my only hesitation about it.
To be clear, this is the cheapest way a student can get this because the publisher is incentivized to reduce it even below the price they offer to the public directly.
All right, my turn.
Dr. Turner.
Okay. So on these proposed courses, so that you went to the instructors for each of these courses and these are the books that they normally use inside their classroom.
Correct.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that you had instructor buy-in and that these were books that they were already using and this is just an option that students can and cannot do. Now, I was concerned about the census. What's the census that you're surveying the students?
No, the 12th or 15th day of class, when from a billing perspective,
So I guess I was confused on what that was.
12th day.
It's the official
the
day,
15th.
the official day of certified enrollment.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a follow-up clarification, these are books that have previously been used by our faculty, ebooks that have previously been used in these courses?
correct.
They're the ones they recommend.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That drives it first.
And we can bring Mark back, but let's hear from our student, and then we can bring Mark back for some follow-up questions.
Yeah, I like to.
So
Hello.
first, hi, I'm Sophia Jimenez. I'm the current student government president. First of all, I'd like to say one thing I love about Del Mar is the transparency. I appreciate that we were approached and got to hear about it. Definitely have heard a lot of feedback as far as me talking to other students and finding out some things. So I will say that was kind of the general what's going on and a bunch of questions. I myself am an older student, so some little things came up that I had questions about. I do appreciate the fact that if I do want to print, I can. Little worried about the limitation, I will be honest on there. Usually when we have to read stuff, it's going to be a lot more than 2 pages. So that definitely is current student attorney on my end. I do like the option of not having to accept it if I don't want to. I think that a lot of our younger generation students will definitely, they're more techie than I am, and they are really looking forward to this. I too am looking forward to seeing this available. I appreciate how the college has really, especially during COVID, jumped on board, found ways to assist us as students, and definitely moving in a modernizing, fashion. And I kind of got a sense that they had the same concern I did, and I heard it in a bunch of different questions. So I will say that, yes, from my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, these ebooks that are being used for the pilot program were professors that already had ebooks in place. I guess the question that came to my mind, and I did bring this up during our talk, was if the professors start seeing this as a little bit maybe easier for them or they like it better, what happens if they stop wanting to do regular traditional books, all want to go to ebooks, and what happens to us that like an actual book, but the professors now require a class that only accepts ebook? So that was a concern that did come up to me, but I will say this, I am excited about seeing the program go through, get feedback from other students, and see if that will also get the feedback from the professors and see, will that likely be an option, or will we always have an option? I just, I would hate to see all programs go just to ebook and other students, like not necessarily older generation students, but students that prefer in hand, not have an option because certain or more classes start going to nothing but these kind of classes where all you can get is an ebook. So I did want to bring that concern up that did come up, but other than that, you know, I definitely see the reason for wanting it. I love the fact that, you know, it's just part of moving with technology and in the modern times. So I will say that it's great that we can save money. It's great that we have an option, and that's just my perspective from what I've heard from some of the students that have come up during our meetings.
Let's talk about that issue real quick before we move on, about faculty, about policy related to instructional materials, and at what level are teachers required to have certain methodologies of instructional materials? I just want to make sure that we understand what our existing policy is around
The faculty have academic freedom to choose the materials they want to teach from in their courses. I wanted to mention that Mr. Ruiz has gone to the Faculty Council, has gone to Chair's Council, presented things to deans as well. And the faculty have said that on a volunteer basis, they're in agreement to do a pilot study. So every person on the list that Mr. Ruiz has volunteered. And then we will see from there, by also getting feedback again from Faculty Council, Chair's Council, et cetera, is this something we want to expand? Should we find it beneficial to our students? Because faculty are concerned about cost always. They want the students to be prepared day one and not miss assignments and homework. So we're hoping this will work. So this is a test case, but we have involved shared governance, and this is academic freedom in action. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question related to how are we going to evaluate success in this pilot program? Certainly, dollar savings is a layman's way of determining success, but is there also, are we going to be tracking student persistence, withdrawals from individual classes, reasons why, we can't judge whether or not a student would have made an A or a B, and now with this they're going to make an A. You can't do that. But what are our opportunities to really evaluate this based on student persistence and success?
Very nice. So phase one was just to get through this discussion. I think phase two, we can definitely have a discussion or plan for an assessment process, right? Because what we have today is volunteered faculty members who have already done this, right? And so to have a good test assessment is to have another population that has not done this, right? And say, what was the success rate prior to the pilot, and what is your success rate after implementing this pilot program? And so unfortunately, this test group that we have today just would not be a good assessment. But yes, that would be possibly in the fall as we start to share what we've learned over the summer and get more volunteers, faculty members to volunteer for this, and hopefully identify those faculty members who who are going to be introducing this type of deliverable of textbooks in this new environment and use them as an assessment tool or test group or
And
to
and
assess
it may not be quantitative, but we certainly could do qualitative
Okay.
surveys with both the students and the faculty about their perception of
I
this
see.
availability.
Oh, absolutely.
And just get their general feedback.
Yeah, and we can do that in the summer.
Yeah, and Mark, you've already talked about the 20% improvement of those that have the books the first day. One of the biggest headaches with our students, their headaches, collectively, I would say our headache, is them not getting access to their books until weeks 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and beyond. And so the advantage clearly when something lands in their lap, day one will have an immediate impact. Okay, that is a theory that has been proven otherwise, but what kind of biofeedback, what kind of, I was gonna ask the same thing. How did you derive that number? Are we gonna track those students, completions and persistence rates, that kind of thing? Dr. Jonda and or Patricia, are there ways to do that? Or Mark? I'm kind of fishing for where that data came from.
Yeah, I believe there are ways to track retention rate by course. In particular, getting back to the technology question about feedback, when a student does opt out, there's a drop down of reasoning for that's collected, in addition to an other area where they can type in. And so we once a student has registered but then decides to opt out, we take that data very seriously, read through it, and we have data available from the colleges that I showed you in terms of the examples of why they're opting out.
One last question related to that, though. If these courses in the pilot project are all ebook courses already, why would any of the students opt out in this pilot project, right? There's no reason why they would, right?
Unless they want to keep that ebook longer than one semester.
But even then, they won't keep it forever.
Yeah, it's licensing. It's licensing anyway, so they're not going to get to keep it regardless. Now, maybe they could print more pages, I don't know.
Right.
If they're getting something that they're not getting in this program. Are they? Can they print more pages if they pay retail?
Hi, I'm Beverly Cage, Director of Student Leadership and Campus Life, and I also advise the Student Government Group. And one of the biggest questions was being able to print and the cost of printing for the students since they're using an ebook. And out of my office, we allow students to print unlimited copies. So that's definitely not an issue, but for the most part, the students were interested. I just want to thank Mark for leaving us the PowerPoint, and we've been showing it to students constantly and other staff across campus so that we all understand exactly what this pilot program is about. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then also, Ms. Beverly, when this was presented to me, and of course what I've been reading and hearing about it and so forth, it fits a niche group. It fits a niche group, and it either fits you or it doesn't.
Exactly.
That kind of thing, and it's one more option out there. And it's gonna be for those that are moving through that say, you know what, I've gotta take this class. I'm not a Kines major, but I need the Kines box to check. I really don't need the course. Other than the credit, I don't need the book, and moving on kind of thing. It's just one more option. There are those students that would say, I'm keeping every book forever and taking them with me to the rest of my life. And I think I can sense who they are around here. But there are those, but that's fewer, and in terms of our student profile, I'm gonna say that the majority of them are moving through using the book. If they can sell it, fine. If they don't need it, they're moving through. And I'm getting the nods from the ones that have been out in the field for a good little while. That's not changed for a while. This just brings one more option with an apparent savings, and that's what we're gonna test. And then we do need to get the feedback, though. We're going to have to put together, through this pilot, a survey, and that's easily done. We can do those in-house as we've done with other things, too. But I do share your concern. But I remember blazing through and just get me through. And that's the average student, I think.
And just because the students will have the opportunity to opt out, that's the important part of it, being able to opt out. And so I just want to make sure that the students can opt out, in a timely fashion. And I know that they have several different ways that the students can opt out, coming to the bookstore, doing it via email, and I think you have some other ways that they can opt out.
Great.
And inside Canvas.
Yes, Mr. Garza.
Yeah, just a couple of concerns. I mean, I'm in favor of the pilot program and trying something new. One of the concerns I have, you've got a note up there about talking about as you reduce publishers' cost, you'll be negotiating. Who are you going to negotiate the final price for those savings to the students so that those
The publishers.
savings- I'm sorry?
The publishers.
The publishers, but there won't be any interaction with the college at all, what those prices are going to be, so that the students do actually derive the savings that you're promising to pass down to the students?
Well, I certainly would be totally transparent with that pricing in terms of what is the cost that they are charging us, and, you know, certainly be transparent with Raul and his group for each one.
Sure, I have been giving it some thought around that, and in terms of the price point, we won't determine the price point. The college would not, you know,
Be involved?
involved in that. That's really between the publisher and our partner, you know, Texas Bookstore Company. But at the same token, I want to be able to get a certain level of comfort that we're saving the students. Now, we have 50% right now on the screen, but as we go back a couple of slides, it's really a range. And so, you know, I need to think about instituting a monitoring practice where I can assess whether or not the students are saving a range. And I don't know what that range could be, but anything about 10%, between 10 and 50%, with a total overall average of 50% or somewhere thereabouts would make sense. Or, I know, Chair Scott, you don't like me, you know, looking at historical trends, but if there's a trend where historically I've saved 50% overall, and all of a sudden there's a 10%, a 20, 30% drop, I'm gonna wanna question it, right? And so, you know, those are the things that I'm thinking about is, you know, what are the monitoring controls to keep Mark in check, you know? And make sure that the students are still saving.
That's the concern I had. The
Yeah.
other thing I had too, and just going the other flip-flop, those students that do opt out, those of us that are dinosaurs or that are not as tech-savvy as others, right? For those students that decide they want the book, if their books right now are $100 or $150, what's to keep the publisher from saying, we're not publishing 1,000 books, we're only publishing 10, so charging $500 for a book that used to cost $125 or $150 to the students that decide to opt out of this type of program. I don't want to burden those people that may linger behind with too much either, you know, too much cost, or that might discourage them from even coming to college.
Sure, I'm not too clear on what the risk there. I mean, we currently have a price point for those students who are opting out today. If we transition into this new program, I'm not too sure if the price point is going to scale up for those individuals who are opting out. I think it would still be within reason, right? Obviously, you can't keep a price point forever with inflation pressures that we're seeing today, but you know, it would have to be reasonable, right? But same thing holds true with the discount, right? So if we see a discount price, and if I understand that of $97 for the finance, you know, if that's going up 4% on a year-over-year basis, I would expect that the opt-out book price would go up by 4%, equally the same, right? And so, again, that goes back to what kind of monitoring controls is the college going to institutionalize to make sure that it's still reasonable, whether the price is still reasonable, and it's going up within reason, right? Whether you're opting out or you're taking advantage of the program.
Well,
Does
just
that help?
again, at the end of the day, after the pilot program's over, if we have a chance to evaluate some of the long-term effects or even what happened in the short term to those people that linger behind, that would be helpful for us to determine.
Well, we
what
have
we'll do.
Mark today. Let's ask him that question point blank today. Mark, do you suspect that the price point for books for those individuals that are opting out going to be significantly increased after we institute this initiative?
I do not, because publishers typically will set their price on a by-semester basis.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
And again, I'm just a little bit confused. So if I'm a student and I'm not taking any of those courses, am I going to have any type of fee on mine? It would only
No.
be for the students who are taking one of those courses. And if I forgot to opt out, I'm going to be charged that
Correct.
fee, correct?
And
So-
you'll have access to the book
And I'll have
on the
access to the
first day.
book, right. My whole thing is, I like the fact that there's options for students, so I like that. I just think it's really important, and I think you all have done due diligence. I think you need to talk to your staff, your faculty, you need to talk to the students, you give them those opportunities, and then have the recommendation from our leadership team.
The other group is that I'm giving the recommendation that we pilot with as a dual credit students, because this could help the school districts as well. As they provide the books for the students, it'll defray costs for them, making it easier for them as well. So we'll take seriously the idea, should this be considered for approval, monitoring a dual credit section or two to see how they respond as well. Because certainly the school districts would like this. And then those kids are reading off, they've not touched a paper book, at least not in my house, anyway.
Coastal Bend has several dual credit program courses that are included in this.
That are
And
included
I
in
can
that
share some
proposal.
data on that.
Okay.
So the action item before the board today is to authorize the charge of course materials as presented in this pilot program for inclusive access. Is there a motion to that effect?
Move.
Motion by Ms. Hutchison. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Averett. Any additional questions on the motion or on this item? All those in favor of adoption of this motion and authorizing this pilot program, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes 8 with 1 abstention. Yes, with 1 abstention. All right, 8 for 1 abstention. Thank you very much. We look forward to the results.
Thank you very much.
All right. We are going to go back to item number 7. And I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you. Want to go back to item number 7, which was the discussion and action related to our policy changes resulting from the recent amendments to our board bylaws. Regent Averett.
Thank you. First, I want to thank Regents Turner and Hutchinson for your work on our bylaws committee. As y'all may remember, we were charged last year with coming up with some proposed changes to our bylaws and our board code of ethics, which we did after several meetings, and the board approved those last year. Following up with that, we extended our duties just a little bit in order to make sure that our board policies were in alignment with the changes that we made to the bylaws. We met recently again with Mr. Rivera and Ms. McDonald, and they did present to us some very simple changes, thank goodness, simple changes to the board policies, which they are here today to present for possible action by us.
Great. Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, keep it brief. I mean, you all have the policy revisions that were presented to you. It's just tidying up work. In a couple of places, we added hypertext link references, so when you click it, you'll actually go to the board bylaws. We think we simplified it. And so prepared to answer any questions. Ms. McDonald and I are here, but this is, and just to be clear, this will be the final piece of work for the ad hoc committee, so I want to commend Regent Averett for her leadership and Regents Turner and Hutchison for their hard work on this, but this would be the final concluding piece of their task. So.
Let me just add too that the proposed changes in the policies I think are really well done, because prior to this, basically, you may remember that we repeated things and we're not always in agreement with things that were in our bylaws and then repeated in our policies. And what staff has done now, which is very helpful, is just basically refer to the bylaws from the policies. So that way, if we change the bylaws in the future, we won't have to go back and continue to change the policies every time we tweak the bylaws in certain areas. So many thanks to Ms. McDonald and Mr. Rivera for your help in keeping us on the right path.
As this is coming from a committee, do you make the recommendation for adoption as presented?
I do.
Is there a second to that motion? Second. Any comments, questions, commendations, expressions of gratitude?
It's a lot of work, and I definitely thank you all so much for the effort that you all put forth. This is wonderful.
I appreciate the cleanup work, and I think you've accomplished everything that we wanted you to accomplish in this. So, seriously, any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And they'll be posted on the internet, on the website as well.
So the college's website holds our full policies and
Correct.
bylaws. All right, then all those in favor of adoption of the proposed policy changes as presented, wait a minute, is there any public comment related to this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the adoption of the board policy, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. With that, again, the ad hoc bylaws committee is now adjourned or finished with its work. Thank you, Regent Averett, Regent Hutchison, Dr. Turner, for your work. We really, really appreciate it, and staff. All right. Moving on to item number 9, Mr. Strybos is going to be with us for the next several items. And passing around results. So we have discussion of possible action to award contract from our request for competitive seal proposals regarding new IT generation and transfer systems. Mr. Strybos.
This is another joint effort item that during the COVID pandemic, information technology, everything went online. And information technology was able to identify some gaps in their system where they didn't have enough backup power, specifically here at this building for their IT systems at CED as well as on the Windward campus. And so we worked with the design consultants, with IT guiding the design loads, and we've come up with the actual designs. We've advertised this. This is a request for competitive seal proposal, so it's qualifications based. We are recommending the low bidder. You have a breakdown that we had 3 bids. The Facility Solution Group for $79,500 is the recommended bidder. The other bidders from TL at $91,557, and Scott Electric from $118,190. The evaluation committee included the design consultants and information technology. And the funding source is the Herf funds.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Strybos? If not, is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation as presented? Motion by Mr. Kelly, second by Mr. Garza. Did I hear that correctly? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Strybos. Next is item number 10, discussion and possible action on award via invitation for bid on asbestos abatement for the White Library and Memorial Classroom Building. Be careful walking down those steps.
Yes, ma'am. We continue to move forward on our 2014 bond projects. We have advertised for asbestos abatement for the White Library and the Memorial Classroom Building. This is bundling these projects to get better pricing and more interest. We had actually a total of 11 bidders for this project. 2 of the bidders got disqualified, and because they did not submit the required documentation. We're recommending award to R&DI companies and a total combined bid of $147,352 funded using the 2014 bond funds.
Are there questions for Mr. Strybos related? Yes, Mr. Kelly.
Okay, and I see we're going, it looks like the low bidder again.
Yes, sir.
And do we have experience with R&DI?
We've done the research on them. We've checked the references as well as with the Texas Department of Health. And so, yes, they are. We do not have direct experience with them, but they are a qualified bidder for this work.
Well, I just want to be sure. I know that we've kind of beaten you guys up about recommending against the low bidder in the past, but you're satisfied with the contractors that you're recommending, even though they're low bidder, that they can get the job done?
Yes, sir, we are. They are the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And we had 2 bidders who were disqualified because they did not submit the right forms. They were not low bidders. They were further down on the list. But yes, sir, we are satisfied that this is the right bidder for this contract.
Okay,
Yes,
I do realize that I kind of saying, criticizing you when you don't take the low bidder, and I'm
Questioning you when you do.
wondering when you do, and I don't mean to put you in that box, but I do.
No, so it's a good place to be. It means I have to explain to you and the taxpayers watching on the internet why we're doing what we're doing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do they furnish a bond when they make a bid?
Yes, sir, they do. Well, it depends on the project. So that all projects may or may not have bid bonds, depends on the dollar amount. But once they get an actual contract, then they'll have performance bonds and payment bonds.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation to award contract to R&DI companies as presented? Motion by Mr. Garza.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hutchison. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. And last item is discussion possible action related to a 2016 Oso Creek Campus Construction Project Change Order Number 8.
This change order is for $2,637,702. It's a big change order. It has big items in it. It has some items that have been removed specifically as part of the old value engineering. One of the key items, the biggest ticket, the lake feature, at $2,280,000. And that's a big gap from what it was originally proposed in the value engineering. And as we've gone through this process, what we've determined is that what was proposed was not fully detailed, designed, and engineered so it could be constructed. And what we've learned along the way is to build this water feature the right way, it's this price tag. And part of the challenge is, while it's easy to question these and to say, no, if we don't build this water feature now, we're not going to build this water feature. Just because the logistics of once everything's there and in place, to be able to get the trucks in there, to do the excavation, to put this water feature in place, it's just not going to happen. So that's the big ticket on this one. The other item is adding back in the outdoor kitchen, which is part of the culinary arts program, which is a requirement for their program. It's in at $322,000. And then there are some revisions to the outdoor site furnishings at $35,702.
Questions?
This would be funded through the 2016 bond funds.
I have a quick question before,
Bill jumps in.
before other questions. The water feature, which I am personally in favor of, we've all seen what has happened with the city's water garden, and just want to make sure that we have in place whatever maintenance or, new technology in place so that we don't have that same issue on our hands.
Part of what we've been doing is spending a lot of time with the design consultants to come up, show them these problems. And the problems that the city of Corpus Christi has had, they're universal. You can throw a rock and you can find a city, a county, someone who's done some kind of water feature, and there's just problems with it. They wish they'd never done it. So we've spent a lot of time with the design consultants and the contractor to come up with a system that it's impossible for the maintenance free, but to optimize that amount of maintenance so it is an operating, working system and performs in the right way.
Mr. Kelly.
Nice segue. And I wasn't here when the original design, and I don't remember being briefed on the water feature. And if I was, I apologize for not absorbing it. Tell me what this $2 million buys. What are we getting?
So when these water features work the right way, separate from the ones that are in the news because
Going to be a lake with a fountain? Is that?
Well, it could be a lake, but it's a small lake. It's not that large.
A pond with a fountain?
Bigger. It's in between those. And the fountains, it may or may not, we're working through all the details. The key is what it does to the learning environment. When you go to campuses that have these types of features on them, they're a draw and they change the whole learning environment. There are campuses in San Antonio that have these kinds of features. They work the right way. This is where the students go, the students hang out. It's more about the overall learning environment and how having these kinds of features that work the right way change the learning environment. They're not out there fishing, they may or may not be, but it's more about the aesthetics and the overall learning environment. And where this will be located, this is right outside the culinary arts program and their restaurant. This is the view. This is what sells this. This is where people come in and see this water feature.
What was the original budget for this water feature?
Well, the value engineering was in the order of $500,000.
We're going from 500,000 to, is it 2.5 million now?
Yeah, it's, yes, sir, you have the, it is.
2.28.
$2,280,000. Yes, sir.
Okay, that incorporates the original 500,000. I thought
No,
the
no,
2.2 was the
ori-
change order.
No, the original $500,000 was removed, so it does not include that original $500,000. Right now, we're not building a water feature at all.
Okay. Do we have a visual of the image? What are we, I'm having a hard time picturing what we're buying.
Sure. I've got some past presentations that we can bring up that show.
Can you pull it up real quick? We
I mean,
can get to that.
December board.
It was on those architecture drawings, just from the first, just so you know it hasn't, it's not sort of a
I think,
And then it kind of didn't make the cut.
Let me go back to the master plan. There it is. Yeah.
I called it a lake and I got told I was wrong.
Like it.
Okay, this is it.
Yes, sir. That shows you what we're getting.
So,
There are no fountains or anything in it?
No, sir. I mean, there may, if you look at the water, if you, these types of water features, there are aeration devices versus fountains. So you'll see the water bubbling when you go by these and you know where they're located.
We're gonna pause it on the picture of it for you guys.
Sure, thank you.
so was it just not, was it misbudgeted?
No.
It was not
I mean, I just
adequately,
got-
in the original negotiations for the original buildings, it was never designed properly so that they could do they gave a number based on what was shown, and it was removed from the original contract.
Okay,
And now we've gone through, and in this process, that's part of why it's taking so long.
okay, so.
We've been talking about this change order for 18 months.
Yeah.
And it's taken that long basically to design it the right way. It never truly was designed.
So
in
it
the way.
has never been approved then?
It has not been approved, that's
That's
correct.
It was removed
It was removed.
Okay, it was removed, not approved.
until we got through, until we determined whether we had sufficient budget or not. And we knew that time was not on our side in terms of pricing. That's the way it is with
But
everything.
this is coming out of the bond, that was
It's
already.
coming- it's in the
So
budget.
it's not even, it's not new money or anything like
Yeah,
that?
it's not extra, it's not anything, that's the only reason why we're even bringing it back to you all,
Gotcha.
because it
So-
falls within budget.
Falls within the budget, so no additional monies for that is needed.
Correct.
So John, related to these images that we originally saw, it's not just the water feature, it is the landscaping around it,
Right.
walkways around it, those kinds of things.
That is correct.
So I think it's important to say that it is not just for the water and the water feature, it is for everything
was
that's
just
going
about
to
to say.
encompass the student walkways and the connectivity that this feature is going to provide between the three buildings.
Yes, that is correct.
Was this part of the original package that was marketed to the community
Correct.
in the bond program?
Correct.
And so when people voted for these bonds, they were
Yes.
anticipating that this water feature would be included?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, in fact, we had
And-
multiple conversations, sorry.
And you are telling me that we can include this water feature within the budget provided by the bonds
Yes, sir,
That's
that's correct.
that the voters approved?
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
So in other words, we would be giving the voters what they voted for without additional taxing.
And the reason why we pulled it out initially is when we were doing the value engineering and the cost came back in, this was an easy feature for us to pull out because it did not impact instruction. It impacted student environment, but it didn't impact student instruction. So it was kind of one of those first ones off the table. Now that we're at the end of the day and we have proceeds from the bond interest and we haven't dipped into the owner's contingencies and the other contingencies, we have for other change orders, but we always knew this big one was going to be potentially the last big one that we were going to do with the intention, the board had the discussion and had the intention of adding back in if our budget and if the construction scenario allowed us to do so.
And it's part of what we marketed to the community.
Right.
From day one.
And you're satisfied with $2 million, this is something that can be maintained, it's not going to turn into a skateboard park?
No, you couldn't skateboard on the bottom of the lake if it became dry.
It's not a concrete bottom, it's a lake bottom?
Well, I think we can define the terms geographically of what it is, but this water feature, we've worked with the designers, and we've explained our limited resources on the ability to operate and maintain this, and they've assured me that this system will work the right way. And we've reviewed these plans, we're satisfied this is the right design.
As far as skateboards, we do our best. It's a mode of transportation to some, and it's a game to others. We keep it away from those that are playing on the campuses and that sort of thing. We do the best we can, but many students use that to get back and forth to the bus stops.
But this is a soft bottom, it's not a concrete, it's not a pool.
It's not a concrete bottom,
not
it's the
gonna
same,
turn
it has a,
I'm sorry.
to use an engineering term, it has a bentonite, it's a stiffer clay.
Got it.
Because if, otherwise, then, if it were just our normal Corpus Christi soil, then we'd have major problems because the water would go everywhere. So it does have a lined bottom, but it's not a concrete lined bottom.
Got it, okay.
How deep is it?
I'm sorry?
How deep is it?
How deep?
Parts of it are in excess of 10 feet.
Oh.
So we're gonna go
central
swimming.
part. You can go swimming if you want to.
So, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
For $2.28 million, it's a change order, so we only have one bid on it from the general contractor, is that correct?
Well, that is correct, but the general contractor bids all this work out. And so
Well,
he does.
he's gonna subcontract
Yes, he's
everything.
gonna subcontract.
But for $2.28 million, would it make sense to have competitive bids on that thing?
There's always that possibility. The challenge is to package it, advertise it, to have multiple contractors on site. When you look at this, it's a lot of earthwork moving, and we've already got a contractor out there moving dirt right now. They've got big dump trucks moving up and down the campus. We have a competitive advantage, and why now is a better time to do it now versus anything else.
I understand all that, and I really like the water feature at 500,000. I don't like it quite as much at $2.28 million. So.
Yes, sir.
I was hoping there might be a way to at least make certain that that change order is not 40% profit.
Well, everything is audited. You've seen the auditors. They're looking forward to auditing this project in great detail. And if they find any of those type of errors, we'd be getting a check.
Well, that wouldn't be an error. That would be an incentive on their part to make 40% on this.
Well, it is, but there's certain requirements within the contract about what they can charge on their profit. They have to give detailed bills. They have to explain all of that. And we expect all this to be audited and to come back with it. The auditors are interested in finding those kinds of mistakes in the billing because when we send the bill back.
And this goes back to time was not on our side.
Right.
Going back years ago, when this was designed and shortly after 16. So the cost of materials is, I don't know how it would be a 40%, but anything anymore is a different. I don't have to tell you. I mean, you know what inflation is doing. But again, it's the infrastructure that goes with this that supports all this and the perimeter and so forth. That big sidewalk right there, and all the associated edgings and so forth to maintain it is it is a big cost. We knew the 500,000 was a placeholder for a hole in the ground, and we knew that even that being uttered at the time was we didn't think we'd get to this point. We didn't think we didn't know if we were going to have enough money in the budget, and that's to our contractors' credit, and along with all the associated teams that have been helping with pricing and everything else. There still remains an opportunity within the budget. Again, that's our rationale, and our only way we can look ourselves in the eye and bring it to you is that it falls within, but it's today's prices, and today's prices are very different, that's for sure.
And I have a question. So just because we approve it doesn't mean it's actually going to cost that, because based on their bills and so forth, it might be reduced, right?
Well,
I mean, obviously, they don't, unless you already have all the pricing set, everything, just to
the
ensure
max.
that
No,
they're
the-
not making 40, you know,
That'd be the
40%
price.
profit.
The basis of all these change orders, when I bring them to you, the general contractor has bid them out, and these are based on their bids from their subcontractors.
Okay, so
So
they've
this is
already
the price.
know how much everything's going to cost, and that's their total.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
But you just don't have access to those.
John, I've got maybe,
Yes, I'm sorry, we do have access to all of their bids. Yes, I'm sorry.
maybe impossible question, but I'd like to know alternatives. Was there consideration given that if we didn't build this, we would use the $2 million to?
So part of what happens with the 2016 bond funds, they're all for the Oso Creek campus.
Correct.
And so I'm out there, if not every day, every other day, which is a good thing. And you're hearing from faculty, staff out there, we're having meetings out there. And so everyone walks into a room and says, why is this here? Or why is that not there? It's a widget instead of a what's it. There's an endless list of what needs to be adjusted. And so although it's a lot, there's a lot of ways this money can be invested in improving those buildings still further. It's part of a question, and I work with Jonda, the faculty, the staff. Do we really need this? Do we have to have this? Good or bad example, in a science building, we need an ice machine. But when you need an ice machine, you need water, you need a drain. It's much more involved, and especially when the wall's already there. It's not like it's a plug-and-play ice machine. Suddenly, it's a $12,000 ice machine the science department needs. But they have to have that. And so, partly it's a roundabout way to answer your question, there are a lot of ways we could invest that money in other places. Is this the right way in the place? I've worked with the president, I've worked with the faculty, the staff.
It goes
Every
back.
single person tell me, no, this is not where this money should go.
That's what I really want to hear is that, of course, there's other places to spend it,
Sure.
but that, and it's sort of an obvious answer maybe, have those all been considered? And it's not like there's some other major project that you said, we really were torn with, should we build?
We waited to the very end,
Yeah.
and we're we're about to get the keys to the first building at the end of the next, in about 6, 8, 7 weeks from now. And so the very end is upon us. This was, going back to what Regent Kelly was talking about, this was the commitment, and this is the original design from day one, and this is how that's why we're bringing it as such back to the table for consideration.
Good answer.
Other questions?
I've got one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it's along the same lines as what was just discussed. Now, I know we're getting to the end of the project, but I want to make sure that we're not going to be out. There's other things I know that you said that money could be used for, but in terms of functionality and the mission of that particular campus for instruction,
Yes, sir.
is there anything that you think at the end of the day we're not going to be able to afford to do because we put that water feature in?
I'm not aware of anything right now. I know that we've got more change orders coming. You'll see them in April. We've got a lot of AV.
And we've got
but
money for those
we
work
have that. I'm working directly with finance that I asked them, it's like, finance, may I? Can we move forward with this? Do we have the budget for this? We look at this in totality and about the projects, and the contractor knows. And at the same time, the contractor, whether or not he wants to make his share of the profit, he's at the end of the job. He wants to finish this job and go to the next job. Every day he's out there working on this job, he's losing money. He wants to get finished and move on to the next job.
I realize that even one board member, it is a new board, and so when I want to make this comment, understanding that we are not the same board that went through the process at the beginning, but there were several items like this that again were about the student environment. The shade structure on the main building was one of those. And we added that back on as soon as we could, realizing that it had to be added on while they were still in the building process. You can't add on that shade structure after the building is built. But that shade structure is important because of the South Texas sun. So as we have identified some of these things that we were able to add back into the original plan, it was the intent of the board at the time to add these features back, that they were part of the overall package and they were part of the overall student and campus environment that we wanted. And I will quote Sandra Messbarger at the time, that there were a number of us that really wanted this feature in there because it is a statement campus for this college district to have on the city's south side. So there was a lot of consternation about having to pull some of those kinds of student environment features out.
There was much bigger. There were other much bigger items. Well said, Madam Chair. I think there are much bigger items. $4 million sky bridge that we moved out, and we shrunk the buildings together. I don't know if I don't know if it was on there, but there were other much bigger items that we did not include and did not bring back, obviously.
All right, any other questions related to this item?
Yeah, I've got one. We're going to be 10 feet deep in some places, and, you know, my experience back when I was in college and my observations is students sometimes drink. What type of liability do we have? I mean, you can't just stand up when you fall into this. So liability insurance, what are there concerns there?
Good point. Liability around a public water feature this size.
These were all discussions from day one of this overall design and the like, and so it is like anything else that we as a college, as we present ourselves to the public, can be responsible for and are responsible for. We do know that we'll have patrol, we'll have security, we'll have all those kinds of things. The instances of drinking and college kind of activities and so forth that you're talking to.
I know we don't have dorms on the campus. I understand that.
I'm not saying that it's never happened at the college, but as a community college, it's a different environment, non-residential and so forth. And so, that being said, I don't think that's a comparison. I think just getting back to the matter of it all, any more than having or any asset of any college as part of its infrastructure, there are always risks and liabilities with parking lots, with cars driving and people walking across the streets and so forth. I think, actually having seen those kind of events happen before, it's inherent in everything we do. But that was discussed and accepted by the board. Again, that design was approved by the board. And again, this is its original iteration, final iteration that was presented back in 2017 or now 18, with those risks in mind.
Why is it so deep?
Well, so we're saying 10 feet. I think it's maybe up to, but I think I remember numbers even less than that. But whether it's 6 or 8, I think it's kind of the same conversation. I remember it being less, but I don't have that. He's the engineer.
And part of that, they've redesigned it, and part of it gets into, is it shallow so it's a fountain? And no, it's not. All right, it's a water feature. And by definition, to make those water features work the right way, they have a certain depth to them. And so it's been designed by the engineers to have the right depth at the right locations.
Yep.
I'd like to think that what we're doing is giving Mary McQueen a naming opportunity. Don't you? Wouldn't you like your name on a water feature? Go for it.
And it's a very different design than other water features. And I'll tell you, just to call it a water feature to me is a little different. Fountains and the like are water features to me. Those are things that are bricked over and otherwise have granite on top of pipe and all that kind of stuff. This is very different. This is very easily accessed with pipes and basic pumps that are pushing the water and circulating the water. That's very different than having a statue type of. I know the city's going through all the things that they're going through and everything with that. That is a water feature. That is very different than what we're talking about here in terms of maintenance. That was the original conversation, was that, you know, that anything that would be built had to be built with a very simple design relatively speaking, in terms of moving the water. The pumps associated with this is designed to move the water and circulate it for cleanliness and of course, appeal and the like. So it's more about that than it is about displaying and putting on, pressurized shows and all that. This isn't Las Vegas. But again, this design satisfied me because I was against the idea of a statued water feature and the like. Mr. Bennett, I guess we were talking about that early on, and the simple design was what was recommended and accepted. John, did I miss anything? And
No,
since
you-
you've been
you've
here, I
covered it.
mean, the way
Yes, sir.
we've talked about it.
All right, so there is a recommendation from staff to adopt project change order number 8 to the tune of $2.637 million. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Dr. Adami. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Averett. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. A lot of pain for that one because we all wanted to understand it, but we
All
thank you
good.
very much for that
All good.
work.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, was there any public comment on that item? There's no public here, but I feel like I have to ask every time. Okay, sorry. We will now go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 regarding pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offer and the seeking of legal advice from counsel with possible discussion and action in open session. The time is 4:41 p.m. All right, we have come back from closed session at 5 p.m. With no action coming out of closed session. Would like to wish all of our faculty and staff and students a wonderful spring break next week. Go somewhere, relax, try to have a vacation. Our next board day is on April the 12th. We are happy, and I think all of you hopefully have on your calendar that we are going to have our Onsaldua Plaza and our General Academic and Music Building 2 dedication on April the 21st. We are looking forward to that. Our next board day is going to be after that on May the 10th with our service awards at 9 a.m. on May the 12th, with our spring graduation scheduled in person on May the 20th. That is our upcoming calendar. Anything else, Mr. President?
Just that I should have a name confirmed for the keynote speaker for our graduation. We are working on that.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. Anything else for the good of the cause? Thank you all very much. We are adjourned at 5:02 p.m.